Welcome, welcome everyone. Welcome to today's stream. Welcome Q, welcome. Welcome Filthy as well. GW already. Don't worry, the camera will come on soon. I just have to set everything up. So there we go. Already in. W. Thanks, nice to see you. How you're doing all? How are you, Filthy? How are you, Q? Hope you're doing fine. Of course, I'm playing DPS. And you won't believe it. I swapped to the superior build. I'm swapping to Greatsword. Greatsword Virtuoso only. So let's see how it goes today. I came after 4 months in the game. I mean, you know, Guild Wars 2 is a game where you can easily come back every time. It's like you can go away for a day or you can go away for 10 years. It doesn't really matter. The game is so friendly in that sense that you can easily fill, yeah. Come on. Can someone quick DPS? I mean, I could, but I want to really play this build. Everyone is toxic to me? I mean, that's sad. Sad to hear, really. I mean, the thing is, I would say if you enjoy the game, if you like the combat, if you like just the playstyle of the game, then coming back is definitely a big W as well. It's like, it's really fun, the game. But the problem is, if people play the game for way too long, like, for example, people like me, and you already did all the content in the game, it might seem like there is not a lot of stuff left to do for you. And that might be true. So if you, so to say, an endgame player already, then yes, then I would say maybe it's not the best time to come back right now because there's not that much happening. But there will be a patch in 3 weeks, I think. 2 weeks? 3 weeks? 3 weeks, yes. I'm working in my secret lab on the ultimate pug fish hater icon just for you. Oh, that's what I want to hear. That's what we need, the secret icon. So, new build, new build. Let's see if I can make this work. So I have to concentrate a little bit to get the rotation down, but I feel like it's actually not that hard. And at least not so different from the other normal Virtuoso rotation. So let's see if we can actually out DPS the guys here. It looks like we lost our quick DPS, which is obviously not ideal for my squad here, but I guess what can I do? But nah, now my rotation is also not that good anymore. Yeah, I try my best. You see, learning a new build on stream is always a big problem. I reached 2 legendaries, which I wanted, and I'm kind of not seeing what to achieve now. Yeah, I think that's a big problem. A lot of people are like you, they just enjoy the new skin that they got, and then you will have at some point not anything more to achieve if you don't like to go for achievement hunting, for collecting stuff like meat, even though you already have all the legendaries. I feel like it is not for everyone, but I personally feel like if you can set yourself an own goal, like going for, I don't know, more skins in the wardrobe, going for playing better in World vs. World, playing better in PvP, even playing better in PvE, getting the best rotations down and stuff, then I feel like for a lot of people, it's actually not particularly boring to actually continue playing after you got your first 2 legendaries, I would say. This feels really scuffed, I have to be honest. But of course, I can understand it if you already have, so to say, everything that you wanted to achieve, then it's a little bit, yeah, not perfect, definitely. You can always activate EM fire. Yes, I guess you could, that's true. No, that's a little bit scary. Good that I was invulnerable. Very good, and we did it. That doesn't feel that good if I know I did so many mistakes. I can't even count them, but we did it, and I was actually not that bad in DPS anyway. The thing with Guild Wars 2 is true what you're saying. Yeah, I guess not. I totally understand if you say it's not worth it for you to come back, but I personally think coming back to Guild Wars 2 is actually very easy. If you compare it, for example, to World of Warcraft, other games that have new expansions, bring out a new level cap, give you new burst and slot gear that you have to grind first. That makes the comeback to the game way harder than in Guild Wars. In Guild Wars, you can come back, check up if the build is actually still playable, and if it is, you will be fine. You can use the same gear, you can go into the new content without any downtime. It's really, really good. But of course, if you don't have any reason to go into the new content or at all play Guild Wars 2 because you don't have any goals right now, yeah, I can see that, definitely. As always, if you have any questions, any feedback, let me know. Hope the sound is also sounding reasonable well. Nice, you subbed for build advice, Andy. Very good. So what advice did you want to get? So do you have anything special in mind, or is it just in general new builds, new advice regarding new builds? So I'm always happy to get questions on stream. So if you have anything, even if it's really detailed, really special to a specific build, even a niche build, let me know. I try to answer it as good as I can. Yeah. Oh. Filthy is gonna flex. Sure, go ahead. I'm very excited to see what you come up with. So I don't trust my supports here, and I bring stability mantra. Of course, the power mantra would be the best DPS, but I always feel like, especially in a group like this, I'm not sure if we actually have full trustworthy supports here. Yeah, might not be the case. Let's see. Yeah, we don't have any quickness. That's not what I like. The thing with Guild Wars 2, I'm already better than 70%. I'm not the best in PvP, but I know I will win some. But I came back because I missed you guys. Yeah, I think that's the big part of Guild Wars 2 in particular, but all, I would say, MMOs for that matter. The community is the most important aspect of the game. So if you enjoy a game and the community is great, perfect. You will come back even if there is no new content. But if you play a game and the community is, say, a little bit lackluster, then you might even enjoy the game, but at some point you don't have any reason to come back because you don't know if there's someone waiting for you there that actually is playing the game. You still have fun with it. So I can totally understand that. I would probably, I'm not sure. If I hadn't started creating content for Guild Wars 2, I'm not sure if I would still play the game that regularly. Probably not, because there is, for me, is not that much more to achieve. That much is for sure. I mean, the thing is, Q, I wouldn't say that I'm not the best player either. You know, there's a lot of players in Guild Wars 2 that are better than me. Maybe not a lot, but a decent amount of players that are better than me in the game. But I still play the game even if I lose against them, especially if I lose against them, because then I see, oh, there is something that I can actually achieve. There is something that I can go for. But if you don't have that mindset, then of course, yes, you're right. Then there might not be something for everyone. That much is for sure. Yesterday, I won a 1-kill Spellbreaker with Spear and Staff on my Power Spear Tempest. Very good. Yes, praise to Filthy. Praise to you. That sounds like a really hard 101 for you anyway, because they have a lot of crazy CC and you have a lot of stuff that procs the full counter attack of them. So I think it's actually a very tough matchup for you. So congrats and let's say mad respect for you there. It's actually not a good one. But I'm like developer for game server, and I know if I spend too much time in MMO, I will lose my community and forgot to code stuff. Yeah, of course, that's all. You know, that's another good thing that I would say about Guild Wars 2 is that you can come and play the game, and you can, at least if you have some kind of stable mental health, you can easily quit again, because there is not really some kind of addiction, I would say, that Guild Wars 2 really sparks. It's like, if you enjoy it, you play it. But it's not like you have to get the best gear and then you get the next best gear and then you continue like that. There are some games that have this gear treadmill where you can't stop playing if you are somewhat easily addicted. And in Guild Wars 2, that's not the case, I would say. In Guild Wars 2, if you don't see yourself playing anymore that much because you don't have that much time, you can just decrease the amount of time and just stop playing at all if you want to. So I think it's both can be working, but of course, if you don't see you doing that and you just go full try hard in one MMO and you can't stop playing and that's not good for your real life, then of course, yeah, then better not do it. I can get that for sure. I was touching like a scared hamster. Yeah, I mean, Filthy, to be honest, sometimes I do that as well. It's sometimes you are just very scared, especially if you fight against a player that you know is really good. At least for me, that's the case. So if I play against, let's say, a monthly AT winner in a 1-on-1 in PvP, I get so, the adrenaline is pumping and I think, oh my God, it's really hard to win this 1-on-1 and I make myself even more pressure, put more pressure on myself. But I personally think if you then win against something like that, then you feel even better. So I definitely see that. Yeah. That was a very fast. I missed my opener completely. No. My nice opener. It's fine. I still have to learn this build. And I have to be honest, this fight is horrible. I really hate this fight if you play a new build because there are so many interrupts that might happen here. Have you seen the Power Virtuoso? Yes, exactly. That's what I'm currently playing. It's really, really good. It has the highest benchmark from Mesmer, definitely. Except of course Mirage. Mirage is better. But so if you bench this on the Golem, be aware there is a bug with the Greatsword 2 skill. And the Greatsword 2 skill will hit way harder on the Golem than it would be in real situation where you have party members. But other than that, you're definitely right. It's a crazy good build. It's really fun to play. And you can see it's really strong. I was completely bad with my opener, but other than that, it's actually really nice. I think Virtuoso in PvE, I think is for me it's the opposite. I think Virtuoso in PvE is the only place where I really enjoy Virtuoso. I feel like in competitive modes, it's too slow paced because you don't have quickness. And I personally don't like having builds that are requiring you to have a target on Mesmer. I feel like Mesmer is a class where I really like to play with different, so to say, options. So I can easily swap my target because all of my stuff is instant cast. I can cast behind me and stuff like that. Virtuoso can't do that. So that's why it's a little bit lackluster for myself to be played in competitive modes. I'd rather play Mirage or Chronomancer for that matter. Welcome, Echo Fox. Welcome, welcome. Noob question again. Why is Kadim 2 considered a Condi boss on normal mode? So Kadim 2, the problem is Kadim 2 is a weird boss. Yeah. So Kadim 2, you have like only a handful of people that are actually doing DPS. So 3 people are doing pylon. One person is so to say the tank. One person is the kite or doing the anomaly mechanic. And then you have like 5 people or something like that on the boss, and 2 of them are support. Probably 3 of them. So for the most times, I would say you can play both. It's completely okay to play a power or Condi build there. But of course, if you have some kind of chaotic mechanics happening, Condi is a little bit safer because you have more flexibility in those builds and they are also ranged. But in general, I would say I wouldn't consider it a classical Condi boss. However, there is one weird thing. I think this is one of the only bosses where actually how is it called? The boss itself counts as standing still, while other bosses count as moving. While this boss is standing permanently still, so Torment ticks way harder there. So keep that in mind. But that's probably the reason why a lot of people would consider this a Condi boss. But it's a weird argument for sure. Why would he quick this if he has 5 skills to get away with invisibility and teleport? Yeah. So I would say Virtuoso, you're right, has a lot of invincibility, but I feel like the fast playstyle of some instant cast stuff is really interesting. Yeah. I think, that you cast your skills instantly while cast other stuff and not having to look at, if I want to fire my skills at this guy, I have to look at them. If I look away, I can't use them. It's impossible. If I use all the other shatters on my normal Mesmers, so Chronomancer, Core Mesmer, or Virtuoso, Mirage, I can use them. So that's something that I really enjoy, having the flexibility in competitive modes to use my shatters whenever I want to, and not having to look at the target. That's what I don't like as a Mesmer fan, because it's a little bit against the classical Mesmer design. Which build is the most resilient without pre-boon and roaming? Example, a thief attacks from stealth. Does being heavy armor have the biggest impact, or does other classes have best instance silent resilience? So I would say it depends a bit on your build, but I personally would say heavy armor class, of course, gives you some more toughness baseline, or some armor rather, and therefore you won't get one shot typically. But I would say builds that have some crazy resustain help a lot against thieves, because thieves try to deal crazy amount of burst damage. If you can't resustain after you got bursted, you will die probably. But if you instantly resustain with a big healing skill, something like that, you can easily kill them afterwards. So I think Harbinger is really good because of that. It has crazy resustain. Other than that, what is really good? I think even Catalyst can be good because you have some blocks after that. So you can activate your blocks and then use your passive skills and reposition, and then I think that helps. So I think against thieves, I wanted to make a guide about how to counter thieves, especially in roaming. So I will mention that there as well. So if you have some patience, I will actually release a video about that in the future. Yeah, Elementalist is really fun. I think Elementalist is really good in all game modes. So don't worry about it. Thanks for the follow, by the way, Shanky. Really appreciate it. Question: if I want to play a comfy power open world build, would it make sense to go for a mix of Marauders and Diviners? So is the extra boon duration not needed worth it for most specs? So it depends a bit on what you want to do. So if you want to play solo, then I think the Diviner can be worth it. Yeah. If you want to have some, I mean, completely solo. So you solo kill bosses. You want to go making, let's say, killing bounties and that kind of stuff solo. Then yes, Diviner Marauder mix is a very good combination. Maybe Diviner, some Demolisher commander pieces, something like that. That can work. But if you're in a squad with other people, but you just don't know them, or if you, for example, join a open world boss that is having 10 players or something, fight them, then I would say the Diviners is not necessary. Then go for full Marauder, full Berserker, something like that, and just say, okay, the boon duration is not necessary. That's my tip. If you go full solo, then yes, then I would say some boon duration is really good. That's why Celestial is so broken, because it gives you baseline boon duration as well. But of course, not every, especially power builds, wouldn't run Celestial. That's more like a Condi build then. So typically, if you play a power build, I would say either go full Berserker and say, okay, I don't give a shit, I don't play with boon duration. Or you go for Commander, Marauder, and some kind of Diviner mix in there. Yeah, definitely. Druid, of course, filthy good point. Druid, if you go for a roaming Druid, that's extremely tanky, but I don't want to promote that build because I feel like I already fight a lot of Druids, and every time I fight a Druid, I feel like it's horrible for me, and the 1-on-1 is just not ending. It's just such a tanky build, but if you enjoy that playstyle, Druid is the one for you, definitely, yeah. No, it's fine. I mean, I really, don't get me wrong, I actually really enjoy it if you have questions, because only then I have something to talk about. You know, if I always tell you about the same stuff on stream, that's boring. I want to give you some stuff, some answers to your really hot questions that you have, you know, that are burning beneath your fingernails, something that is really important for you. So don't worry. I like it actually when you ask questions. So welcome, Thuntis, welcome. Most Celestial builds are Condi, since it favors that, but sometimes you just want to play power. Exactly. I think Celestial is like, people think it's like a build that, or a stat that you can use in all kinds of situations, but I would say it's always favoring power. Condi rather. Power is really, the power damage of a condition or a mix hybrid build is always quite low. It's always like a Celestial build is really, really Condi favored already. It's just straight up typically not designed like that. That's what you have to keep in mind. Yeah, I'm a little bit shy, that's true. I mean, it's true, you might not notice it, but I'm a shy person after all in real life. That's how I am. So if you don't have anything to speak about, then I'm a little bit, you know, lost and can't really talk about anything. But that's okay, you know. Sometimes you don't have any questions, that's fair then. An updated feature I'd like to see is revamped group finder, some incentive to group for random content. That would be such an amazing feature. I would love that. I would actually make streams where I say 6 hours of this random group finder. To be honest, that would be such amazing fun to me. You know, having a reworked LFG would be amazing. Not only having better LFG, but also the option to just randomly join a group that is actually looking currently for a healer. You queue up as a healer or something, and the group gets you as the healer. You don't know what actually the group is doing, what kind of content. You might want to, let's say, niche it down a bit, say, okay, fractals or maybe, let's say, strike missions or something. But in my opinion, that would be amazing. If you can get some extra gold by doing that, that would be really good. If at least it would be somewhat, you know, if it would be, let's say, Kadim CM or something like that, that might be a little bit tough for a lot of groups. But if it's decently doable content, I would actually say this is actually a really cool thing. Yeah, I agree. How much easier does Quickness Herald make Harvest Temple CM? Quite a bit. If you play Harvest Temple CM, you will notice, or you should have noticed what kind of requirements there are for the fight, and you need a lot of stability, you need sometimes the bubble and stuff. So Quickness Herald is quite low in DPS, yes, but it has so much stuff that is exactly made for this fight. You know, you have crazy good stability, you have crazy good, just very easy boon up time that helps in hard fights, because then you don't have to concentrate on the fight, or rather on the rotation while you do fight the boss, but you have passive boon duration and stuff increases. You have just a lot of utility in the kit. That's why Quickness Herald is probably the best quickness DPS there, if you are not really, you know, try harding completely. Yeah. So this time I will get, oh my god, I missed my opener again. So this time it's at least, oh my god, I interrupted my stuff. It feels so bad. No, I got interrupted. Now my DPS is gone. It's really tough to actually learn a new build. Even if you played maybe because I played the build so much, the other one with the different rotation. I guess it's fine. At some point we have to learn new builds. I want another line or two of trades for all classes. That would be amazing, Kaldun. I definitely with you there. I think just core trade line would be amazing. It would be so good. What are they doing? Why are they targeting random people? Yeah, but I definitely agree. Giving us more trade lines, especially core ones, would be amazing in terms of just general fun and just how much build crafting you can do. But I feel like that would also be amazing for them to actually balance. I think the balancing would be even harder than before, because you have so much things to consider that actually work with one another. I'm not sure. I think having one might be enough of the Quick Herald, but I feel like depending on the group, 2 can be better. Yeah, for sure. Just got a party invite by an enemy player in World vs. World. Yeah, that's possible, but you can't, you see them then and see their health and where they are, but you can't really interact with them other than writing in party chat. Yeah. Just adding to your comment, is Harbinger or Cutter against Thief Burst? How is Untamed compared to Elemental and Harvest regarding surviving, such as Stealth Thief Burst? It's actually quite good. It's actually quite good, yeah. I would say it's also really strong against Thieves in general, or as a roamer, but it's a little bit harder to play, I would say. Yeah. Yes, I'm pressing those buttons with an MMO mouse. It's not like I'm pressing my 9 button with my left hand. I don't have that big hands. It's on my mouse. Yes, correct. Nice poem there, Filthy. That's a good one. I like it. I like it. What if you have none and 0 stability? Then the fight becomes quite a bit harder. The reason is there are a lot of mechanics in the fight that actually can be negated if you have stability. And if you don't have any stability, or at least not very good one, not good uptime on it, it's actually quite, yeah, lackluster. Yeah. I've been really enjoying your low intensity builds videos and the weapon series. It's really nice when you go in depth. Perfect. I mean, I have way more of that stuff coming up, so don't worry. And I really enjoy it if you actually think that's a good idea to do that stuff, because I enjoy talking about it. And if you enjoy listening to it, perfect. And of course, always don't forget, I also want your opinion. You know, sometimes I have some takes that are personal, that are, let's say, subjective, but some takes might be objectively wrong. So if you have something that you want to discuss and you think it's not really true, let me also know. I'm always happy to improve and just get this stuff right. Yeah. Praise the fish hater. I mean, I would say it's a nice meme. I wouldn't make a religion out of that one. In general, I wouldn't really want to introduce you to some religion kind of stuff, but having some kind of nice emotes, that's something that I'm always looking for, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, not everything has to work out. So it's a very important point. You should have always, the most important thing playing Guild Wars 2 is you have fun. So if you want to get some achievements and you just can't get it done, like getting COCM, getting anything that you want to get in Guild Wars 2, go do something different. You know, if you shouldn't really, you know, always think this is the only thing that you can do right now. I feel like you really have to try out different things and just have fun in the game. And if it currently is not working for you, that might not be a big problem, because you can get it in a few months as well. So that's my tip there. Just try to play something that you enjoy, and you can come back at any time to actually try it again. You don't have any stability here. That's how it feels. Harvest Temple without a Quickness Herald. What? You can't enter strikes? That sounds not like a thing that actually happens. Which class for dual sword or two-handed sword, which looks agility like samurai? You know, which class would you recommend me? Which is the best for swords? So if you want a fast mobile playstyle, I would say Willbender is really good with dual swords. And Harbinger, apparently, so Necromancer Elite spec is also very good. Those two are really, really good for dual sword wielding, if you really enjoy those. Other than that, out on top of my head, I think those are the best ones. Maybe Herald can also work in competitive modes, at least, as a fast-paced spec. In PvE, it's not that fast-paced. It's more like you spam your auto attack and that's about it. But in competitive modes, yeah, I think that's a good one. Login error. Okay, maybe you have to update the game, because it's actually, we got a new patch today, a small one. Maybe that's the difference. I don't know. Trying to get into fractals. Would you recommend Reaper, Scrapper, or Mechanist for my first Ascended gear? I would probably go for Scrapper. If you have the option, if you don't have any, so to say, personal preferences, I would go for Scrapper. Scrapper is really good. It has power DPS. You can easily go for quickness DPS just by switching one trait. And you have a lot of super speed. Super speed is immensely broken, you know. And then don't forget, you also have Barrier in the kit. It's really good kit. Scrapper is really good. But go for the one that you enjoy the most. All three of those are actually working very well. Yeah, Vindicator is also, that's true. Vindicator is a very good pick for Sword as a mobile class as well. But I feel like Vindicator, I would say for a new player, Vindicator might be a little bit harder to play. It's a little bit gimmicky. It has a lot of mechanics that are, so to say, built on top of the Revenant mechanics, and it can be a little bit harder to play. Yeah, maybe I have to do that, Filthy. Maybe I have to do that. Tracy, okay, maybe they have some login problems. I mean, I don't know. Sometimes it feels like they have a lot of problems in the last few months regarding some logins, some DCs and stuff. Maybe they are really doing some kind of expansion preparation or something like that already in the background. Some crazy stuff. We don't know. It's really uncommon that we have problems like that in Guild Wars 2, because the servers are always up, you know. That's one of the biggest things that no one talks about, is like the servers in Guild Wars 2, they're always up. Always up. It's crazy. Need to raid now? Yeah, that's a fine. See you later. Have fun raiding. Where's my alacrity gone? It's completely gone. I would say I would go for Willbender. I think Willbender is the most fast-paced one for sure. That's my take on the situation. I think Willbender with Sword, yeah, it's really fast-paced. They could add funny or useful abilities to all those shapeshifter tonics potions they have. I think that would be very interesting, but I feel like the problem is with those that not a lot of people actually have that. And is it really worth to add stuff like that is actually quite development intensive, I would say, adding more abilities and stuff to just a few things that maybe a few people have and we would really enjoy, but only a handful of those? It would be really good if you have some kind of prestigious potions that you can get from some raid bosses and stuff. But I feel like at the current moment, those potions are more like some kind of niche reward. Not a lot of people actually go for all the novelties and stuff. At least personally, I would say that's actually quite low. Yeah. I really like Scrapper, but Mechanist makes things so easy. Yeah, currently Mechanist is absolutely... I think it's too strong. How easy it is to play, it's actually crazy. It's really good. I think it's okay to have a low intensity build that is really good, but I think it's actually benching so high right now that I would say it's actually, yeah, I don't know. It's almost like it's too good for what you have to do. It might be a little bit nerfed in the next patch, but I feel like they just buffed it, so maybe they leave it a little bit longer. I don't know. We will see. Welcome, Classy. Welcome. What is the best class, DPS class for raids and CMs? I think it depends a bit on what kind of... So I have a DPS tier list, and I would say it still holds true, the tier list on YouTube. But in general, I would say builds that are really safe, like Condi Virtuoso and Condi Scotch, are really good for tough fights because you can easily use them as some kind of safety net, and you have some barrier and just some self-healing and some self-distortion even. So that can work well. But if you want to go for the highest DPS, I think Condi Willbender is the best Condi build right now for most people. And if you want to go for the best power build, I would say Power Virtuoso. Power, yeah, Catalyst is really good. Those builds are actually... There are a lot of builds that are actually really good and really high on the DPS benchmark. Yeah, Power Willbender is actually also there. If you can play Deadeye, it's also extremely high in the DPS benchmark. And Mirage, of course, those are all really, really good builds, but they are actually way harder to play than, for example, the already mentioned Power Virtuoso, for example. I think Power Virtuoso is one of the best high-level builds in terms of difficulty that it actually has, while it's still extremely high in the DPS output. Yeah. Do you play any other games except Guild Wars 2? I would say Guild Wars 2 is the only game that I played that high in terms of just general knowledge level, but I play a lot of other games off stream as well. So I play some MMOs just to try them out and see how good Guild Wars 2 actually is. No, I'm joking. I try to do different stuff just to see how the competition is and stuff. But other than that, I also play a lot of roguelikes. That's what I enjoy the most actually off stream, just jumping into something, get some stuff going like Hades and that, and then have some fun. Nothing without a big progression. What do you think about Quickness Untamed? Quickness Untamed is really underrated. I think Quickness Untamed is one of the best high DPS quickness builds. I would say it's not for everyone because it's like Untamed, you know, not everyone likes Untamed. But I think if you're a Ranger main, this is a very, very good pick. It's really good. It has crazy good burst damage as well, and if you do the rotation correctly, upkeeping is actually very easy as well. Yeah, I would say it's very underrated. It's really good. What makes me miss Scrapper playing Mechanist is the tool belt skills. Yeah, I think the Mechanist really takes a lot of the engineer fun away just because you get the mech and it's a pet and you lose your tool belt skills. So I personally don't enjoy Mechanist that much. I would really like to play some engineer. It's way more fun than a lot of the other stuff. At least in my opinion, what Mechanist brings. I think Mechanist is more like for people that enjoy Ranger but want to play an engineer. Yeah, but the tool belt skills for me is the identity of an engineer, and you lose that, and that's a little bit sad, definitely. Yeah. Welcome, Arthur. Welcome. How are you doing? No, I didn't play Roblox. Would you recommend Roblox? It's definitely something interesting. Yeah. Regarding the impressive server uptime, Amazon Web Services has an article that talks about Guild Wars 2 and how it can be so stable if you like that kind of stuff. Crazy. That sounds crazy. I have to look for that. It's actually really fun that they mentioned that. Because I feel like that's, if they would ever mention that in some kind of, advertisement, it would be such a unique selling feature. No other game that I know that is as big as Guild Wars 2 actually manages this. Every other game that I know, they are just like, yeah, we have servers and we try to maintain them, but at some point we just have to shut them down and reload them with the new stuff and the new patch. It's really crazy actually that Guild Wars 2 manages this so well. I think there was only one time, and I played the game almost since launch, only one time where actually the game was, so to say, rolled back. Yeah. 5, huh? Okay, interesting. I will actually remember that. Yeah, I'm doing well, Arthur. I'm doing well. Enjoy streaming right now. Have a nice evening. I know for you it's in the morning, but still, we can have a nice day together, I guess. Yeah. Super expensive to maintain. I'm spending about $300. Okay, interesting. Mac is people that like animals but are allergic to fur. Yeah, I guess that's true. I think the problem that I have with Mac is that this control of Mac is for me too annoying. The Mac is sometimes, especially if it's a melee Mac, the melee Mac is here. I move here to avoid an attack. I press, for example, I play Alacrity Mac or something. The Alacrity goes around the Alacrity Mac or the Mac, and not around myself. So I have to really think all the time where it is. It is really stupid. Sometimes it just moves around, does not attack at all. It feels just very horrible in a way that I don't enjoy. Yeah. But what can you do? I feel like not everything works perfectly in Guild Wars 2, especially when it comes to AI and how the pets behave. But I feel like most of the time, especially in PvE, you can make it work. In competitive modes, it can get really frustrating. If there's someone, I just give an example. If someone moves up somewhere, I move up these crates here. The mech gets really stupid and runs around like crazy and can't really attack me on the melee. Even though I'm just standing here and it could maybe attack me even if it's just standing down there. It's really, it's a really weird situation for sure. How long you started this character? I see legendary on your back. Yeah, I mean, I have every legendary in the game. That's the crazy part, or I would say almost everything. I just played way too long in Guild Wars 2. That's the crazy thing here. It's not like some kind of boasting that I'm doing here. It's just if you have this many hours in the game, you probably have all the legendaries as well. It's just I play the game, I have a lot of fun, and I get some gold and I spend it to get the legendaries. Nowadays I have everything that I want and I give it away mostly. That's what I did my YouTube giveaway a while ago. And don't worry, we will do a Twitch giveaway very soon as well. Just as the next milestone is reached on Twitch, 1K followers on Twitch, we will do a Twitch giveaway as well. Don't worry. Welcome to the stream, Polo. Thanks, Pos, for the follow. Really appreciate it. Yeah, that's true. Better watch out. I have 5K hours and not a single legendary weapon. Yeah, I think it's always about what kind of mindset you have. I don't want to say your playstyle is bad, not at all. I think everyone should play the game like they enjoy the game. So if you enjoy the game and just having fun, that's perfect. You don't have to go for legendary. Just for me, one of the first things that I wanted in the game was a legendary. Actually, my first legendary in the game was Twilight. I was actually grinding dungeons way back then to get my Twilight. It was really fun. And after that, I just continued and said, okay, now I have this goal. And I enjoyed the game. I played some different character. I wanted a different legendary. And it continued like that. So it's like I keep playing the game because I have some goals. Nowadays, I don't have any goals in Guild Wars 2 that much anymore. I just play for fun and make content for you guys. That's my whole reasoning here. Yeah. Any tips on getting better at kiting and surviving PvP world versus world? I feel like I die so fast a lot of the time. That's a very good point. I think I might make a kiting guide because kiting is really important to understand. But in general, I would say learn where there are no port spots, so where enemies can't port to you. That's really important to understand, because then you are safe, so to say, from their teleports on you, and they have to use ranged attacks. Can be really annoying for them if they don't have any, so you will be safe. Other than that, line of sighting, so if this merchant wants to attack me and I go here, they can't attack me with ranged attacks, so they have to go for attacks that are actually melee or somewhat through the wall. Stuff like that, if you notice that, and if you try to avoid attacks that are somewhat special, like in a cone shape, or if you, for example, know that what is a good example? This one is also cone shape, a little bit. If you know this is only hitting there, you can stand here and you will be safe. Something like that. You always have to understand what is happening. Yeah, but that's true. I do have Aurora Vision, the color, and 4 of 6 World vs. World Legendary medium armor, and now I'm playing to get the Obsidian heavy and light. I think armor is the best to create first, then weapons. I think weapons are actually very overrated in terms of what they actually bring, and it's a nice skin, yes, but I feel like going for trinkets can be very worthwhile as well. It's very easy to just swap around stuff, especially if you play multiple characters. Weapons are not that nice, so because only spear and sword are the weapons that can be used on all characters, all the other weapons actually are somewhat limited. So if you make, for example, best example would probably be a rival or something, they can only be used on 3 classes. So it would be quite a waste. If you go for an amulet, you actually can use it on every single character. I think the worst legendary to make is probably the relic, because it's way too expensive for what it provides. But yeah, that's how it goes. Welcome, Frozen. Welcome. Do you ever play Guild Wars 1? I actually did not play Guild Wars 1. I don't even have an account. It's the crazy part. I would say I'm too young for that, you know? When it came out, I was, I don't know, barely in school. So yeah, it's just, I would say before my time. That's the reason that I didn't play. Maybe I might try it, but currently I'm quite busy with Guild Wars 2, that is. So let's see what I will do in the future. Yeah. Yeah, if you stand a lot in the open, like this guy, you are an easy target. But if you move behind something, if you try to know your attack range and stuff and go really try to kite in LOS, so line of sight, then you might still be able to attack the enemy while they can't attack you. That can be really, really helpful, especially if you have like a Reaper or something, attacks that go through the wall. You can use that quite easily to actually kill the enemy or just survive and deal some damage to them. Yeah. If I would have to start fresh, I would definitely go for armor first, then trinkets, then weapons. Trinkets after armor, just because trinkets are so easy to get with Eternal Eye Shards. That's true. I think that's a very good point. Trinkets are very easy nowadays to get Ascended version. Armor is a little bit harder, so if you want to go for the most, let's say, efficient way and most thoughtful way, then I would probably recommend the same. Going for armor first, going for trinkets then, and then maybe weapons. If you are really going for different builds a lot of the time, then you can go for runes and sigils if you really want to, but I feel like it's also a little bit, yeah, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not. Depends a bit on how much different builds you try. Yeah. Back item will be a problem for me. I don't have a fractal group and it's expensive ticket-wise on World vs. World. Yeah, I mean, the PvP one is actually quite easy to get. You just have to like PvP a bit and play I don't know, a few weeks, then you would get it. But if you don't like PvP, then of course that's not an option. I would say fractals are actually not that bad. You just go in fractals and play some tier 4 fractals and you can get it. You don't need to do CMs for that. Keep that in mind. Just tier 4 regular ones are actually fine. Yeah. If I would start over, yeah, I mean, I think Guild Wars 2, a lot of people say what they would do, but typically I would say I wouldn't start Guild Wars 2 again. I think if I played Guild Wars 2 from ground up, I might not go for all the legendaries. I think that's too much of a grind to go through again, personally. But if I would, so to say, not have done it already, then of course I would, yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like Dr. Blaufin mentions, I think Fractal Backpack is actually not too bad. You can pack it because you don't need CMs for that. Yeah. I think the runes are something like that, 120 clovers or something. Yeah, I think that's about right. I think it's not too bad in terms of the clover costs, but it's just a lot of investment for something that might not be worth it for you if you don't play a lot of different builds. Because runes nowadays are not that expensive for the most part. Yeah. As a new player, would you say warrior is a good class to learn roaming with? I think it's quite good to learn duels with, because you're really good in duels, but I feel like in outnumbered situations you might get overwhelmed quite fast. Warrior is sadly not the best spec right now in roaming, I would say. It's decent, but not the best. Yeah. Personally, all trinkets plus relic, all legendary armor, then rest for me. Crazy. I mean, the relic, I would say the relic for me is very high value because I swap it around a lot, but it's also quite expensive. So if you get it nowadays, it's like 2.5k or something. It's crazy how much it costs. It's not worth it for most people, yeah, I would say. I think if you have a lot of Ascended gear lying around, legendaries don't change too much if you don't swap your build around a lot. So if you might know, yeah, I play a lot of different builds. I make a lot of build guides on them on YouTube, and I swap around my gear like crazy. You see on this character, I have 9 different equipment templates, and all of them have different gears for the most part. So it's actually crazy how much convenience I get from the legendary armory. I, of course, wouldn't have to make 2 light armor sets, yeah, and 2 heavy and 2 medium armor sets. That's a little bit too much, yes. But the convenience that you get from legendaries, especially if you do a lot of build crafting or different builds, it's really high, definitely. I played Celestial Hammer Bow Berserker for a while to learn roaming. It has little DPS, but it has so much sustain in CC. Yeah, it's definitely. I think learning a build on a tanky, learning a game mode like roaming on a tanky build is actually quite smart, definitely. I would recommend that to actually a lot of new players for sure. For example, if I would say Spear Mirage, Power Burst Mirage is extremely strong, I wouldn't recommend it to a new player. It's like you get one-shot by everything, even a tank, but you can also one-shot everything. Of course, that's not a build that I would recommend to a new player. You're right there. Good point. Yeah, of course. It's really expensive, the relic. I mean, if you don't mind that, that's then you're fine. But if you are, let's say, on a budget, I would say the relic might be one of the last ones to go for. So runes relic for people who like swapping builds. Yeah, I think it's actually the relic less so, but the runes are actually really helpful if you swap your builds around a lot, because then you don't have to always extract it. If you don't have the permanent extracting device here, the endless upgrade extractor, that can be quite expensive as well. And then the runes help a lot. But of course, if you have legendary armor, you can swap your runes around free anyway. If I'm crafting a legendary sigil for 2 weapon sets, would I need to make 4 separate sigils or 2? So I equip 2 sigils on the spear here. If you want to have 2 more on the greatsword, you have to make 2 more. So you need 4. If you want to use them underwater as well, you need 2 more. If you want to have another weapon underwater, you have to have 2. That's why I have 8 sigils. It's quite expensive, but that's what you need to do if you want to have full sigils. Yep. I wish I was there when it was free. Definitely. That was one of the best decisions for the veterans at the time, to actually just get 1 rune. Because if you got 1 rune back then, when they didn't have the legendary relic out yet, you actually got the legendary relic for free when you have the change from the runes. That was actually crazy. So you had to make 1 rune. I don't know. Costs maybe 300 gold, 400 gold at the time, and then you got the legendary relic, which is now 2.5k for free. It's crazy. Yeah. Nice. Then I'm still working on unlocking my first elite spec, Shroudbreaker. Yeah, it's a good choice, definitely. Already did all trinket, and it felt more complete to finish last one before doing all armor. Definitely. The journey of the trinkets is definitely way higher than the armor. The armor is more like a grind, whereas the trinkets is way more of a journey, for sure. Relic legendary is so weird, you don't even get all the relics. Yeah, I think that's, to be honest, I agree it's weird because it doesn't give you the ultimate convenience of swapping all the stuff around. But you have, if you unlock the achievements or get a relic, then you have all of them there in as well. What I currently have, so I can use all of them in my builds. But I feel like they should have done that in the first place with every new expansion they released, and new stats and stuff, and relics and runes and sigils for that matter. Yes, it's weird, but I feel like it would give us more reason to actually play the expansion content. And I feel like that's a big problem if you release the expansion and a veteran that has legendary armor, for example, gets the stat type that was introduced with the expansion in the first second when after logging in. That's crazy. Yeah. I was lucky that I decided to make the rune. I was only a few hundred gold and I got the relic. Exactly. Yeah. Who you play virtuoso with greatsword spear? No, with spear dagger sword. That's actually the new build. The new best build is with spear and greatsword. It has 1k more DPS on average. It's a little bit different. I have to get used to the rotation, but it has more DPS on average. Yes. Can you tell us the best 3 classes for World vs. World roaming and the 3 for Zerg? So for Zerg play, it's quite easy. I would say it's definitely currently Firebrand, Scrapper, I would say, and maybe Holosmith. For roaming, it's I would say Catalyst, Harbinger, and what's the last one? Maybe Untamed. Yeah. Nice, you challenge them. That's good. That's what you do, Q. That's what you do. You challenge the best PvPers in a 101. About 500 gold or something on the line, then you're talking. Yeah. Sure. Did you talk about the new Beetle event? I didn't. The new Beetle event is actually quite fun. I really like it. I think that's one of the best events that they introduced. Ooh, I should reduce this here. Very good. So the new Beetle event that came out with today's patch, I can talk about. Nice. There we go. We have Q in the map. Where is it? There it is. So the new Beetle event gives you some racing medallions. So if you need to get new skins or from the racing event stuff, so the scarf, for example, there is a scarf that you can get baseline, and you need, how is it called? Racing medallions. That's how it's called. And if you need those, you actually get a lot of them at this event quite easily. So just completing some roller beetle races. And you can get some nice other, how is it called? A new scarf. This one, the patterned racing scarf. It's actually looking quite good, I would say. And you can get that if you just complete a few of the courses yourself with the roller beetle. Of course, it's not for everyone, but I feel like it's quite easy to get. You don't have to get a best time or something. You just have to get some roller beetle racing going, you know, and get some laps, and then you will be good. You don't have to be the best on top of the leaderboards in something. So I personally think definitely go for it. Don't wait until the event is over and notice that you actually like it. Yeah, so definitely go in. You lose damage with allies. Yes, this is bugged. You're right. This is bugged. But if you do it on the golem, you reach 46k. So I already counted it in. Even after that, even after you actually got the stuff, it's actually 44k. Yes, yes, yes. It's crazy. It's really good. Welcome, Snowdrop. Welcome, welcome. Where I can the updated builds on Virtuoso and Snowcross. So I will do a build guide about it, but in the meantime, you can find it on Snowcross. Yes, that's correct. I didn't buy the Panda yet because I'm not that big into mount skins. I think it's a very nice skin. It's also very expensive. So it looks really fun. It's a really nice skin, definitely. But it's so expensive, I don't typically buy mount skins. That's the only thing that I don't invest in homestead stuff. Those two things I don't really care about. All the other stuff, like getting outfits like this or getting weapon skins, that's where I actually think about stuff because I want to get the collection done. But if I, so to say, want to get, I don't know, all the mounts as well, then I would be probably wouldn't have any money to give away. Yeah. Yeah. But I would say this build is really good with the greatsword, but don't forget, yes, the other one is a little bit safer in terms of just you have more ranged attacks or a little bit better ranged attacks, I would say. And it's also with the block in there in the kit, it's actually feeling a little bit safer in my opinion than the greatsword version here. So I like the greatsword spear version, but I feel like both of them are completely fine. In a real fight, I think the DPS is almost the same. Best healing class right now in PvE, I would say, is Chronomancer. I think if you want to play it in every single content in the game, heal Chronomancer is really good. You can fill Alacrity or Quickness role, and you have crazy good utility in the kit. You can swap almost anything in your utility skills, and you will actually carry your group. You have a lot of stability access, you have a lot of CC, you have feedback, you have boon steal. Condi clans, it's actually crazy what you can do. There is almost nothing that I can imagine that actually heal Chronomancer can't do, so it's probably pretty objectively the best healing build right now. I mean, you can Q, you can send the pictures in our Discord and check it out later. Yeah. I'm one shoulder piece away from completing my first legendary set, but the grind was unreal. Are the legendary sets on raids also this much of a grind? I think it depends a bit. What kind of legendary did you do? If you did the open world one, I think the open world one is the most grindy one. Maybe with the world versus world armor. But other than that, I feel like all of them have some kind of grind to attach to it. It depends a bit on the game mode how much grind it is. But I personally think all of them are somewhat grindy. Yeah. Yeah, Mesmer is really good in PvE right now. I feel like Mesmer is probably overall the best class to play in PvE. In competitive modes, it's not that clear. I think, don't forget, in PvE you can play every class. You can even play a core necromancer and will be fine in a lot of situations. But if you want to try hard and get the best builds, I think currently Mesmer is really good. In competitive modes, it's like, yeah, it depends a bit more. I think Elementalist is actually quite good right now. I don't know about Virtuoso and Mirage anymore. Yeah, Mirage is weird. Mirage in PvE is like only 5 people play it as a really try-hard build. It has the highest benchmark in the game, but only 5 people can achieve that, if even. And it's like the Alacrity build doesn't really exist. Power Mirage is a meme. It works, but it's also very weird. Why would you play that over Virtuoso? And it's like, yeah, typically I would say play Virtuoso or play Chrono, and Mirage is like most people shouldn't play it. Yeah. In competitive modes, it's almost the same. In competitive modes, it's really good if you have a tryhard player that actually knows what they are doing. But if you're a casual player and just learning it, it looks horrible. That's what support needs, to be honest. The utilities should not be tied to the capabilities. That is true, but I feel like it's a little bit unfair if you have one spec that is extremely broken because you can use all your utility skills, and then you have Elementalist that doesn't have any good utility skills. If you're playing a Healing Catalyst, you have 3 utility skills. You can't swap around. There is nothing that actually makes sense to take over those 3 skills. It's really sad. So I feel like this is a big problem. They need to balance that, and I hope they might do that with new core skills. Yeah, that's my take. Or nerf Chrono to must-use utilities to perform. I think they have gone away from must-use utility skills. So back in the old days, we had, for example, Wells giving Alacrity. And they moved away from that, and they moved away on every elite spec from that, except maybe Firebrand and something, and Harbinger maybe to some extent, to provide perma quickness. All the others, or most of the others, actually don't have to use utility skills to upkeep their quickness or Alacrity. And I think that that's a design decision they made, and now they can't go back, and they can't probably say, okay, Chronomancer should get nerfed, because then they have to nerf everything else as well. That might be the smart move, I agree, maybe, but I feel like they can't do that because a lot of people then would actually not be able to clear the content anymore if the support gets nerfed. Yeah. From what I've heard, it seems like Chronomancer is the best at almost everything. Do you think they'll keep buffing him compared to the others forever, or will they nerf him? I think they will nerf it to some extent, but I think for the most part they actually will probably just buff the others. I have to be honest. I feel like buffing the others is probably the way that they do it, even though I feel like it's not the correct play. Exactly. I think they have some problem with the confusion on Mirage, and they will never touch confusion because of that. If they buff or nerf confusion, it feels like they don't know what they're doing with it. And I think they will not touch it. Chrono is absolutely broken in Fractals, but it's also really good in strikes and raids. It's very good everywhere. Yeah. It feels like bad when you have other healers once you get the feel of a good Chrono in Fractals, honestly. Yeah, that's honestly completely true. I agree. I think that might be even the reason why I enjoy Fractals right now, because Chronomancer is so broken. If I had to play Firebrand all the time, then maybe I wouldn't play healer. maybe that's true. Yeah. Oh, come on. Put me in combat in the last second. Honestly thinking making Shout's baseline for Elementalist would be a good move. the problem is, can they do it? Can they make something that is bound to elite spec baseline without breaking everything in the balance? Because I feel like then Tempest would lose a lot of value because you take Tempest for the shouts. You don't take it typically for the overloads for the most part. So I feel like, yes, that could fix the issue, but I think that would bring a lot of other issues in the game, to be honest. Like Eye of the Storm giving 3 steps instead of 1. Yeah, I mean, that obviously is a big... I think Elementalist needs some help. I think Tempest is the only one that actually has a lot of supports baked in the kit, but all the others have some big problem, definitely. I agree. I hope this isn't too casual, but whenever I hear people ask what is the best anything, I always think the best is what you enjoy playing, unless you're doing CMs. Just about... Yeah, that's a good point. I forget to mention that way too frequently, that you should play what you like, especially in PvE. Play the one that you enjoy the most. But if people ask me for what is the best currently, I can't tell them play what you like, because that's probably not the answer they want to hear. You know, they want to hear what is currently the best meta pick. And I think that's their decision if they then play this without actually enjoying it. That's what they decide. If they want to do that, sure. That's my take there. Welcome, Final One, welcome. Hope you had a nice day so far. I did not play Guild Wars 1. That's the crazy part. I didn't, and maybe I will do in the future, but currently I don't plan to, because I have so much stuff in Guild Wars 2 to do, actually. Mesmer was my first class on release, but I came back for Chrono just to get lost in the specialization. I think Chronomancer is really good. I think Chronomancer is really fun, and if you get the hang of it, you will actually love it, in my opinion, because you can carry your group so much, and it's really, really strong. And also very dynamic. It's really cool how much stuff you can actually get done on the spec. Yeah. I think Elementalist, the problem is every time Elementalist gets a buff and gets really strong, like for example, we recently had a really broken Fresh Air Tempest that was crazy good. And then they nerfed it instantly in the next patch. So maybe they have some problem with Elementalist, but I feel like they should just give Elementalist, especially the core specs, utility stuff and so on, some love, definitely. I hate the fact that you have classes that can play full bunker and have still decent DPS, while other classes playing full DPS and wrecked again in World vs. World. Like, skill doesn't matter on the build. Yeah, I feel like currently there is a lot of bunkering and PvP going on. Oh, come on. That's a big problem, I agree. But I feel like they really should address those bunker issues very fast. If they don't do it, I think the population, especially when push comes out, will actually get even lower. I really fear that. Yeah. You know what I would like to see? People trying fun builds that are not meta, sometimes not even close, like Flamethrower Scrapper. That would be really fun. I would really like to see some crazy builds, especially when in competitive modes as well, to have some fun in the, let's say, roaming scene or in the PvP. I would really like that, just to have fun and encounter them. I'm always happy to see some kind of off-meta build when I roam and try to get some crazy one-on-ones going. I like that a lot, I agree. Yeah, I think Guild Wars 1 is a good one, definitely. I'm not sure if I would play it right now, just because I don't have too much time to actually put into it. But I feel like if I had more time right now, then I might actually play it. Maybe even on stream. The anniversary event is really cool right now, definitely. The problem here is asking yourself, why would you? You could also play Pistol, Deadeye, which isn't meta, and have 3 times the DPS with one button. Yeah, I think that's a big problem. I think that there is always meta builds are really good right now. And if you go to a build that is not even bad in this on paper, but if you play this, then you will have way less DPS and way less sustain than a lot of other builds that are currently meta, just because the difference is between a meta build and a build that is actually okay, playable, makes sense, but doesn't have the numbers behind it. It's so huge that you actually think, okay, why should I play this? It's actually, you just make it way more challenging than you should, probably. Yeah. No, I didn't get the Panda yet. I am actually not a big mount enjoyer in that sense. I don't buy all the mount skins, I have to be honest. It's too much gold to get all the mount skins. There are so many of them. The Panda looks really nice, but I actually probably, I wouldn't get it, I have to be honest. What's the damage difference in full Dragon versus full Berserker unload? I think it's, I think someone, and I tested it with someone, and I think it's like, maybe like 10% or something. No, it's a little bit more actually. I think it's 17%. I think it's 17% or something. It's actually a notable difference, but it's not like you can't play the build then. Yeah. Since when Pandas and Guild Wars 2? Good question. I think at least since today that we have the Panda released today. Yeah. Definitely. I mean, that's supposed to happen. If you have good players in a group and you play a low intensity build, then you are supposed to fall behind. That's just how it goes. You know, you play a build that is supposed to be easy but has less DPS. So if you play with players that actually play crazy hard builds but they have crazy DPS as well, then yeah, of course you fall behind. I think that's fair. That should be the case. Yeah. I think Untamed is very fun. I think if you enjoy going for some kind of more challenging spec, Untamed is probably one of the best Ranger specs to play right now. In all game modes, actually. Yeah. Anyone saw World vs. World Brained? They run open world with your World vs. World build and refuse to change, even though it's too much to see. Yeah, I can see that it's actually not that fun. Somewhat weird, definitely interesting. Yeah. No, you would get a 17% DPS loss if you go for full Berserker then instead of full Dragon. I think something like that. I calculated it out. I think it's actually really high, the number. It's really surprisingly high. Yeah. So you would lose damage on Berserker because on Berserker you actually overcat on crit cap. So Dragon gives you a lot of ferocity, whereas on Berserker you get a lot of precision, and on Deadeye you actually easily get the crit cap. You get to way too much if you go for full Berserker. Tempest, if you look at PvE Tempest is really good because you get Aegis, you get stability and stuff because of your shouts. Yeah. Typically on Tempest, you don't run Staff, which is the only other stability access on Elementalist for group play. And if you play Tempest, the Overlords give you, of course, Alacrity. But if you think about the utility that you get from the baseline Tempest is mostly because of your shouts that you actually can play an Alacrity healer, because you actually get a lot of other stuff with your shouts, like even Vigor, Regeneration, and that stuff is really easy to upkeep because of your shouts. If you would take the shouts away from Elementalist and would say, let's from Tempest for that matter, I think Tempest would be a really bad support. And that's what Catalyst in that sense, or all the other Elementalist specs are, because they don't have crazy utility. So that means currently Quickness Heal Catalyst is really good because you have crazy amount of boons with your Jade Spear. But if you had utility skills like a Chronomancer, it would be god tier. It would be amazing. It's just currently not. You don't have the crazy utility to actually keep up very frequent stability. That's the issue there. Yeah, it's a little bit weird. I agree with the stat swapping and the dragon pieces. I would say you can go for full Berserker and just slowly get more dragon pieces, or you go full Berserker and say, okay, I play a low intensity build anyway. It's not like I get top DPS if I play with tryhard players. That can also be an approach. Yeah. You get vigor from shouts if you use the trait in Tempest. Chrono is super good in Zergs. I'm not a Chrono lover, but it's super good. I agree. I think Chronomancer, even after the nerfs, it's actually really good in Zerg play. Still really good. I think Catalyst is really good right now. I think it's true. Yeah. Yeah, no, I think don't get me wrong. I think, Happy, you're completely right. I think Tempest is perfectly fine. I think the shouts are really good. I think it fits very well. But we had it earlier that if Elementalist got shouts baseline and not on Tempest, then the other specs would get buffed. And I would totally agree with that statement. That's the only thing that I want to say. I don't want to start a, let's say, discussion here that I actually don't, that is actually, I don't disagree with you. That's the important part. I just think shouts are carrying Tempest. That's my point. And if the other elite specs on Elementalist would get shouts, they would be somewhat better and actually crazy good if it comes to Catalyst. That's my thing, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it depends a bit. I mean, I think Elementalist mains are a little bit, they are really sad that Weaver is a spec that is, I would say, not in the best spot. Yes, you can get crazy good DPS, especially in Fractals, for example. But I feel like, especially in raids, it falls a little bit down. It's not that good. And Tempest, I would say, is decent. I would say it's very useful, but it can't keep up with a Chronomancer or Druid, for that matter. And Heal Catalyst, I would say, is very niche in terms of how much it has crazy boon output, but if you need stability and frequent H's and stuff, it gets a little bit left behind. So Tempest and Catalyst are just not as good as a Chronomancer, and that's why they need buffs or Chronomancer needs nerfs. That's just straight up the case. Yeah. I would say Ellie is better than Mesmer. I mean, I think from a design perspective, you could argue that, but I think in terms of balancing right now, I think that's just straight up wrong. I think Mesmer is extremely strong in PvE, and in competitive modes, I would say Tempest is a very crazy good healer, and Catalyst is just the best side noder. So maybe you're right in competitive modes, but in PvE, Mesmer is absolutely busted. Every single elite spec is really, really good. I don't know if Quickness Cutter would be broken with shouts. I don't know much about PvP, but yeah, maybe it could have an issue in PvP. Yeah, I feel like, to be honest, this discussion is quite, let's say, in a fantasy world, because I think they will never do that. They will never give us access to shouts on another spec, or like say, give us Wells on a Mirage or something, because that would completely break the game's balance. You know, they already did it once with the weapons, so that we can now use, for example, a dagger on a Chronomancer and see where we got it. You know, it's crazy how much damage we now can do and how much insane build variety we don't have, because everyone is running a pistol on a Condi build on Necromancer. It doesn't matter if you're Harbinger, Core Necromancer, Reaper, everything uses pistol. That's just boring. And that will exactly that same thing will happen if they would give us like Wells, like shouts, like deception skills, whatever currently is only bound to one elite spec. If that would be free to use on every elite spec on the class, would be horror, would be crazy bad to balance. Yeah. Yeah, surely they wouldn't break PvE completely. I think the moment they break PvE completely, like stuff like we just talked about, I think it's a confirmation that they're actually currently working on a new game. Because if they give us completely crazy shit that they can't balance anymore, like dual classing, like giving us new elite specs that they don't balance anymore, giving us, I don't know, all the utility skills from an elite spec on all elite specs, something like that, then I think it's a clear sign that they don't care about the balance too much anymore, because the game is not their main focus anymore, because they are currently focused on something else. That's my thing. And I think if the new expansion, we will see it in October, gives us something absolutely broken, I think they say, we completely say goodbye to power creep and stuff. We say, we don't care, power creep, let's go, that's all we want. Because if there's something new coming that is absolutely crazy, like a new elite spec or something crazy like a new skill for every class, whatever, I don't know anything about the new expansion, but that would break the game for sure. Imagine they make in the new expansion a utility share mastery. That would be, I would love that as a build crafter, because I could play so much cool different stuff then. But I think it would be absolutely horrible. They can't balance it anymore. It's just insane. It's impossible. And in my opinion, that would not be healthy for the game, sadly. Yeah. The new expansion will be in October. So we will get a new expansion. It's already announced, but we don't know the name and we don't know anything about it. At least I don't. So maybe they give us some kind of information soon. But right now, we don't know anything. It will just be in October. That's the only thing that we know. Thanks, Frossi and Twively set, and really appreciate your follow. The only feature I'd like to see is Infusion Preview. I mean, to be honest, if they put the Infusion Preview in, which is in my opinion not something that is crazy hard to do, then they could already go quite hard and go say, yeah, let's do some kind of infusion wardrobe. I think that's a feature that especially veterans would really like and really appreciate to actually play around with, and would a lot of people would actually play a lot of stuff then. So not only preview, but also give us a full wardrobe feature where you can also say, okay, I want to have this infusion used on this character, and on another character I can use the same infusion without swapping it around on this slot. That would be amazing. I thought they hinted that the expansion might get pushed back. Do I misremember hearing that? I think they... So what I know is that normally the expansion was released in August. So we got Soto, we got Chantier Wilds in August. And now they gave us, I think 1 month ago, 2 months ago at this point, I don't know. They gave us just a random forum post and said, sorry, we will delay the expansion just for a fact. We will delay the expansion to October. That's what we got. There is no hint that they delay it anymore. But of course that could be happening. But I feel like October is quite a big deadline for them. I think October it will come out. Yeah. The really interesting thing to think about is Guild Wars 2 will die and Guild Wars 1 will outlive its successor. That's crazy thought. I think that will be the case at some point, especially if Guild Wars 3, if they currently develop Guild Wars 3. And let's say Guild Wars 3 will come out in 5 years and we get early access in 3 years. And they will announce it, let's say, in 1 year. Then Guild Wars 2 will die out quite slowly over the next 1 to 2 years, just because people will not invest time in a game that is about to die. But people will enjoy playing Guild Wars 1 for a long time because it's not really reliant on teammates. In Guild Wars 2, it's way more reliant on teammates. You can't solo the Octavine. You can't solo raids with most exception. There are a few bosses that you can solo, but a lot of stuff is actually not really soloable. Yeah, like strike missions and stuff. So Guild Wars 2 will not really be that long-lasting than Guild Wars 1 if they don't include some kind of mechanic that would break the game like heroes in Guild Wars 1. I don't know. Maybe they will do it. But if they don't, I feel like Guild Wars 1 will probably outlast Guild Wars 2, for sure. Yeah. I mean, Guild Wars 1 I think is a very good game, but I feel like personally I would say I like the fluid and very fast-paced combat of Guild Wars 2 more, personally. So that's why I play Guild Wars 2 and not Guild Wars 1. But if someone actually enjoys Guild Wars 1, I feel like you can play it for the next 10 years. I feel bad spending money on Guild Wars 2 already. Yeah, that's the sad part. You know, that's the really bad part. If you already feel bad spending money on Guild Wars 2, even though we don't have any confirmation that they are not working on something. So it could be that they are currently working on an expansion, and that's it. You know, nothing new. That would be amazing in a negative way, because then why are they putting so little content out? We don't know. So I personally think it's one of the worst things that they could do to just not give us any information. You know, they could give us some information and say, okay, we are currently working on Guild Wars 3, and that's why we don't have enough content in Guild Wars 2, but there will be content coming for the next years. Maybe then people would spend, I think there will be a time where a lot of people feel like you and they have to do it. Yeah. Currently it might not be the case yet, but as soon as the next patch and the next expansion will seem like it's not as big, I think they have to announce it. They can't leave us in the dark forever. Yeah. Welcome, Dino. Welcome. I think Guild Wars 3 will be widely different from Guild Wars 2. It might not even be a traditional MMO. I think that's actually a smart move. That would counteract the stuff that Snowdrop actually said right now. If the Guild Wars 3 game will be completely different as a just general genre-based game, like not an MMO, maybe like an ARPG or something like that, then it can run in tandem with Guild Wars 2. They could develop new content for Guild Wars 2 while Guild Wars 3 is also being developed, because it's completely different or somewhat different audiences, you know? That's a smart move. If they make just a copy with a better engine of Guild Wars 2, then Guild Wars 3 is supposed to be the killer of Guild Wars 2. That's straight up the case. If it's a Guild Wars 2 clone with a better engine, Guild Wars 2 is dead on arrival when Guild Wars 3 comes out. For sure. No, I don't feel bad on spending money. I see it as an investment to keep the game alive. I would say I'm always happy if there is a new expansion coming out and I buy it, because I feel like I'm really giving ArenaNet the money that they deserve. I personally don't spend money on mount skins or any gem store items, but I feel like if people do that, I'm grateful for that because they're actually financing the game that I play quite a lot, maybe too much. So yes, I think currently I'm not feeling sad about spending money on Guild Wars 2, but there might be a lot of players, especially more casual players, that might feel that it's actually not worth to spend anymore because you actually don't get enough content to actually play the game, so to say, for the next 5 years maybe. I don't know. Let me grab something to drink 1 second. Heroes and mercenaries will never work in Guild Wars 2. The coding effort would be far too extreme. Imagine coding a hero to handkite. That shit would break every other patch. I mean, it would probably break on the first patch, you know. I think that we'll never get it to run. I think that's a big issue, that the current Guild Wars 2 engine is just, I think, way too much spaghetti code, and they actually are not able to really program stuff that is that crazy different from the already existing stuff. So I feel like that's a big issue why they can't put out more content. And I think that's the biggest reason that they're actually currently working on a completely new engine or a new game with a new engine, because that's actually allowing them to progress in the game and developing pipeline way faster. They put out more content faster. That's my whole reasoning here. Yeah. I don't mind spending money for the entertainment I get from Guild Wars 2. Fair point. I'm really happy that you see it like that, and I hope almost all the other people in chat and all other people in Guild Wars 2 see that the same, because that's keeping the game alive that I actually enjoy playing. If no one spends anymore, then I feel like the game is about to die. Yeah. If they make a Guild Wars 3 a different game, like Baldur's Gate 3 or Diablo-like, I would be very happy. So I could still play Guild Wars 2 without the fear of it disappearing. I think that would be my biggest hope, that Guild Wars 3 is some really cool game that I would enjoy as well, but would be quite different to Guild Wars 2, so that I can play both of them at the same time. And hopefully both of them get actually updates and will not be left, so to say, in maintenance mode. Yeah. Is 20 euro a month on average too much spend on Guild Wars 2? I think that depends. If you don't mind spending 20 euros a month because you have enough income to actually make that possible, then I think it's not bad. But if you compare it, for example, to a WoW subscription, then it's somewhat similar, a little bit higher, but it's definitely worth it. I think it's fair to actually spend that much on a game that you play maybe 3 hours a day. Could be, you know, I don't know how much you play. It just really depends how much you have to spend. Exactly. It's always like, if you can spend that much, then it's completely okay to spend that much if you play the game a lot. I think if you play the game for 1 hour per week, then maybe you should reconsider, because then maybe you spend a lot of money on something that you don't really play that often. But if you play it, let's say, 20 hours a week, sure, 20 euro per month is actually not that much. Yeah. I think it's a fair point to say ArenaNet doesn't deliver enough to actually make it worth to pay 20 euro a month. I think that's a fair criticism. I think currently I would agree with that. I think they don't deliver as much as, for example, we got in Living World Season 4, for example. But I hope they will change that in the future. Or at least we get some confirmation that they are working on Guild Wars 3, and that's why they don't push out as much content in Guild Wars 2 anymore. They could make in Guild Wars 2 that would give us some skins in Guild Wars 2. Yeah, exactly. They could give us this Eye of the North style stuff. Hall of Memories, like Filthy mentions. Something like that could definitely be working in Guild Wars 2 as well. But it has to be skins only. It should not make this completely like you play Guild Wars 2 and you actually get crazy rewards like a legendary in the Guild Wars 3 game. That's not the case. It should be something that is worthwhile getting, very fun, like a title or something, but it should not make the game so that it's completely like, if you play Guild Wars 2, it's easy mode. That should not be the case. I would buy an expansion Guild Wars 2 launch. They deserve it. Yeah, I would do that as well. Guild Wars 2 will 1000% be in maintenance mode. They can barely get enough content out now. Do you actually think ArenaNet can support 2 games? I think, Snowdrop, I don't want to be some kind of crazy copium person, you know, that is always like crazy positive. But I feel like it highly depends on the Guild Wars 3 start. So if the launch of Guild Wars 3 is like a crazy, like let's say AAA MMO coming out, let's say we have millions of players actually playing the game, even people that never played Guild Wars 2 before, I can see a world where they put actually some developers on Guild Wars 2 and they continue playing and developing Guild Wars 2. But if it's just a, let's say, mediocre start, people play it, some people like it and stick around, then I think Guild Wars 2 will not have enough developers to actually keep it alive. I agree. Reversed Hall of Memories. Okay, interesting. Guild Wars 3 fuels Guild Wars 2. That would be interesting. Okay. That would be interesting. They could do that, but I feel like at this point, people would not care. You know, who would play Guild Wars 3 and would say, oh, I only play it for the content in Guild Wars 2. I think not a lot of people would do it. It's always better to have something that you play an old game to get actually stuff in the new game, because then you have already content for years to come because it's already out. That's the reason. MMOs are a dying genre. Yeah, that might be true. I don't know. I can't give you any details on that. But I feel like if you invest time into some kind of maybe solo player, action RPG, MMO mix, you know, then that can be, in my opinion, a very worthwhile genre to actually get into. And a lot of people might actually enjoy that and even play the game if they haven't played Guild Wars 1 or Guild Wars 2. Could be working. I love Guild Wars 2, but this game is showing its age. I wouldn't mind if they slow down development after the next expansion. I think I would agree with you. That sounds weird as a content creator for Guild Wars 2, but I would actually agree. I think if they would put Guild Wars 2 in some kind of maintenance mode or really just decrease the amount of content they put out, maybe keep it to a level that it's currently on, but already tell us, yes, we were working on Guild Wars 3 and it's coming out in 3 years. I would personally say that's actually, I'm happy with that. I have to be honest. I'm happy with that. But if they keep us in the dark for the next 3 years, I'm not sure if I will continue playing Guild Wars 2 if there's nothing coming out anymore. You know, at some point you have to say the game is not really crazy that much. You know, I don't know. It depends a bit. Yeah. Guild Wars 2 still feels fresher than WoW or Final Fantasy. I think it depends what you like. I personally think the game feels fresher because of the fluid combat. I like the combat way more in this game than in the other two you mentioned. But I feel like the content that the other two put out is way better in terms of quantity, maybe also quality than Guild Wars 2. And that keeps a lot of players just logging back even if the combat is not as fluid. MMOs only suck because there are no innovations since Guild Wars 2. I think that's a big problem. The problem is if you want to innovate in MMO genre, you have not only to create a new MMO, but you also have to come out with a lot of content and innovation. And if you want to get that done, you need 10 years of development. Then you come out and you just don't have enough content compared to World of Warcraft or Final Fantasy that have for 20 years of content at this point. And you just can't keep up with the expectations of the players, even if you innovate. I really hope there will be an MMO. Maybe it's Guild Wars 3 that actually has enough innovation to keep me interested in the game. But I fear a lot of players actually wouldn't wait for that. If they would redo the base game for an expansion, I'd be good with that. Redo graphics and balance, make the Quaddle fail again. Interesting take. I would agree that it would be interesting, but I'm not sure if that would be the selling expansion. Yeah. Actually think mechanics in the game are well polished, and the graphics personally I prefer more over the typical Unreal 5 engine. Interesting. I think I personally, I'm just so accustomed to the graphics in Guild Wars 2 that I don't really, I think they are quite nice. I think if you compare to WoW, I feel like it's looking better, personally. I think the WoW graphic is more like a, let's say, cartoon-style graphic. I'm more of this graphic. I like it better. Last thing I've heard. Yeah. I think it's a good point that you don't always have to compare stuff to other MMOs. I think Guild Wars 2 is a nice game, and you should not always compare to others. If you enjoy Guild Wars 2, you don't have to compare to other games and say it's better or worse. If you enjoy it, play it. So you can right-click if you are on me. You can just right-click on my character name. So if you open your window here and can say right-click, and then you can say, okay, right-click, and then there says join the map or something. And that could work, but if my map is full, which is probably the case, then you might not be able to. People need to start accepting the future in a way. Everything great will come to an end, but new stuff will come. Just stay optimistic. That's a very nice statement. I would agree. I think you should play the game if you have fun and say whatever the future will bring, just take it as it is, and maybe you will have fun and maybe not. Yeah. So if you're this one, you should see that. If you right click on me, you see join in Auric Basin, and you can do that. And if it's full, it will say it's full. If not, yeah, then you can join. I like when it's not cartoony, but also not necessarily too realistic. Yeah, I would agree with that one. The interest is there. There's just nothing but WoW, Final Fantasy, Guild Wars 2, and very few others. Yeah, I think you can actually really... I would say there are less than 10 currently reasonably well MMOs out there. Less than 10. I would say probably more like 5 currently. And that's obviously a big problem because those 5 will keep growing in the player basis in terms of how many people actually enjoy them. But they will also be more dated each day. So when a new MMO comes out, it has to have something that is actually unique and has to be something of a crazy amount of content already at the start of the game to actually compete with the Guild Wars 2 and the other MMOs that you mentioned. But it will be probably way more fresh and way more better looking in most cases. So yeah, I hope Guild Wars 3 will be the crazy good MMO. I'm not sure if that will be the case, but I hope so. MMO genre is slowly dying, not because of the genre itself, but what if provided the past MMOs were an actual world, a chat room with a game attached basically in a time when you had dogshit Skype and chats. MMO don't provide the same anymore since Discord assist. I think it's also because a lot of people get the younger generation typically wants a fast-paced game like Fortnite, like something like that, where you don't have some kind of crazy progression element. They don't want to grind the same boss over and over just to get more loot. They want to get crazy amount of content and don't care about progressing in something. I think that's the Zoomer generation is a little bit different in terms of what they actually provide, what they like about games. That might be the case. And maybe I'm, let's say, analyzing the situation a little bit wrong, but I feel like that might be the case. Yeah, if it's full, it doesn't work. Yeah. Unreal 5 engine is the best way to go for the future. Once switched to Unreal Engine, you will have the best graphics possible forever because Unreal Engine is very switchable for the newer version. I would like that. I'm not a developer. I can't tell if that's right or not. But I feel like that would be a crazy good thing to actually have for the game for sure. If it's just more easily updatable and upgradable, that would be amazing. I'm not sure if Arena that wants to do it or if they want to keep an in-house engine because that's what they currently do with Guild Wars 1 and Guild Wars 2. But I think, yeah, would be good if they actually listen to you, I guess. People have been saying MMOs dying for many years now. It's still very much alive. We just don't get the new games all the time like other genres. Exactly. We stick to the old games and we enjoy them. That's a good point. You don't always have to get new games to actually have a living, alive genre. That's true. But I personally think it would be crazy if we could get a new MMO that is actually crazy. Maybe it's Guild Wars 3. That would be amazing. I would like it a lot. Yeah, it's true. Even League and Dota are actually getting quite old, even though they are actually quite, they have quite a big player base. Even they get quite old, for sure. Yeah. I think the reason why people are cautious with investing their time into new MMOs is because MMOs are extremely volatile. One bad update and mainstream audience is already farming drama. Why would I invest my time in an MMO when it might be dead with a single bad update? Good point. Good point. I think the audience wants too much of a game and instantly quits when something bad happens. And that's a big problem, for sure. I would agree. That's a good point by Pleb, that it's actually probably the reason why they would probably go a different route and say, no, we don't want an MMO because we don't want to have the same trap in the just same Guild Wars 2 universe and stuff. Maybe they want to have a game that is a little bit less volatile and easier to maintain and easier to update. Maybe like an ARPG, maybe like a normal RPG even. Could be a single player game. Could be. I hope not, because I really enjoy having some company and playing different stuff and different builds and stuff. But it could be an RPG as well. Like a completely fleshed out RPG. Maybe. I don't know. But keep also in mind that if Guild Wars 2 gets bigger and bigger, people will not even want to start because they need forever to keep up. A fresh start is not bad. That is true, but Guild Wars 2 is way easier to keep up because in Guild Wars 2, you don't have any crazy vertical progression. So if you reach level 8, you can instantly jump into new stuff. So for the most part, I would say, yes, you are right. New people don't like to have years to take until they are actually at the same point than a veteran. But in Guild Wars 2, you can reach level 80. I would say if you grind really hard and get the Ascended gear, you can reach that in a week or maybe 2 weeks if you're a little bit slower. But that's crazy. Look at World of Warcraft and other games. It's actually very hard to get the best in slot gear in this amount of time. So keep that in mind, yeah. Fair point, Q. I can see why you don't want to spend on Guild Wars 2 right now. And I think that's fair. You know, maybe that changes with the next update, maybe that changes with the next expansion, or maybe it doesn't change at all. Anyway, it's fair. You know, should always make the decision for yourself if it's a game that you want to spend time and money in. But I personally like playing it, and I hope a lot of people agree with me, because only then the game is alive. If everyone says, nah, it's not the game anymore that I want to play, then I feel sad, because it actually hurts me as a enjoyer of the game anyway, because then you have less content to actually enjoy. I personally prefer to keep the in-house engine. It has its unique charm and makes the game stand out instantly, but I imagine hiring new people and training them to use the in-house engine is quite expensive. I think the problem is we don't know how easy it is for them to develop in a new engine. So if the new engine, or the old engine rather, if they would use it as the new engine, if it's really easy for them to create new content with it, then sure, go ahead. But if it's really hard for them to create new stuff that is not in the game already and just copy paste it, and then we have the issue that they are just having currently in Guild Wars 2 that we don't have crazy good amount of content quantity pushed out. So I think that's a very engine driven problem, and that's why I think making a new engine, maybe a new in-house engine, maybe taking Unreal Engine 5, whatever, and it's making it easier for them to actually create content. That would probably solve the issue, at least in the terms of quantity of content they can put out in the same amount of time. If you have a veteran friend in Guild Wars 2, you could probably be endgame ready in a month or two with multiple characters. I think it depends highly on how much effort you put in and how much knowledge you already have when you start out, but I would say a month is definitely doable for sure. But I feel like that's something that I want to stress every time someone mentions this. I want to say the journey to reach your first character to level 80, gearing it with Ascended gear, is a journey that you will only do once. After that, you have a character, you get way easier access to leveling, to Ascended gear. So enjoy the journey the first time. Don't really say, ooh, I have to do it in a week, then I can get to the end game. Enjoy the journey to end game. Because in Guild Wars 2, you will only do it once, and it will be quite fast. I kind of wish Guild Wars 2 was a little bit more grindy myself. I love the game, but the end game is all about fashion. Yeah, exactly. It's like if you don't enjoy fashion, there is nothing for you to grind really. Ascended gear you get in a 1 to 2 months, and you will be fine for sure. Yeah, could be Q. I don't know. I'm not a developer. I can't tell you if Unreal Engine is the best to go for. I don't know. I just hope it's a new engine for me personally, because I feel like then they can put out more content. VR, that's an interesting take. I didn't hear that one before, but I'm not sure if that will be the case with the... It would be fun. Maybe it has some kind of mod for that, but I feel like it's too much. Yeah, if you're on a late map, it's very common that it fails. Sorry, Q. It's only... You need enough people to actually play it. It's if you are in a late map that starts too late, it's quite common that Auric Basin is not working perfectly. Some vertical progression wouldn't hurt Guild Wars 2. Fractal God is a good approach in my opinion. Yeah, something that gives you a little bit more loot or something a little bit more worthwhile to actually do this stuff that you enjoy anyway, but not make it completely necessary. So it shouldn't be like get legendary gear because it gives you more stats. Oops, that's the wrong web. Because it gives us more stats, but something that actually is also making players engage with a goal that they might not have had earlier, but also making it, so to say, not too broken for players that don't want to go for it. I think it has to be a nice middle ground, but I personally like it if the decision to go for more Fractal God style achievements. Maybe make that for raids, maybe make that for open world, something like that. That would be really cool. I liked it. Could also bind Guild Wars 2 players quite long to the game if they haven't done that already, I guess. Yeah. I enjoy the story a lot, to be honest. That's fair. I personally don't care about the story, but if you enjoy the story, very good. You have a lot of stuff that actually I think the story in Guild Wars 2 is actually there's quite a lot of story if you're a new player. If you're like me and you don't care about the story, you just have to get through some bears talking for hours. But if you care about the story, there is actually quite a decent amount of content in terms of story. That's much is for sure. I see Agony Infusion with Master Points as vertical grind and Fashion Wars. I think I agree with the Agony and the Mastery. With the Fashion, I would say I wouldn't agree. I think Fashion is like, do it if you care, don't do it if you don't. And it's not really changing anything. But the Masteries is vertical, definitely. And the Agony Infusions for sure as well. And definitely also the just Fractal God. Yeah, for sure. Introduce Stealth from Path of Exile? Yes, that is, I bring that up every time someone mentions what I want from Guild Wars 3. And my answer to that is, strictly speaking, I don't care what kind of genre it is. It could be an MMO, it could be a solo game, it could be some kind of ARPG. The only thing that I want is that the combat is very nice, maybe better or close to Guild Wars 2. That's what I want. That's the first thing. And the second thing is, I want some endless grind, like delving, like procedurally generated content that I can go in, that is scaling, that is very fun to play. I can try out different builds. I can infinitely increase the difficulty and get infinite rewards. So that I can sit down and say I farm for 10 hours and get a lot of rewards from that, but also have a lot of fun. Because that's currently missing in Guild Wars 2 for me. If I want to have a farming session, it is very, I don't know, very dependent on other players. And oftentimes I have to switch maps around, I have to do other stuff, I have to do meta events that I don't like. But if you have one thing that you can farm over and over, like Fractals, but in a little bit procedurally generated way, so that you don't have to see the same boss every time and the same map layout, that would be really cool. I would love that. Yeah. Basically make rewards more appealing so people have more incentives to play, like you and I talked about in your PvP video. I think better rewarding system would help the game a lot. Yeah, I think that's one good point. Rewarding the players for their time spent is a very important point, especially to MMO players, but also for RPG players. You want to get a crazy good loot explosion or some kind of that when you actually play the game for hours. If you don't get that, it feels very boring. And I feel like especially PvP and World vs. World have the issue where people say, oh, I don't get any loot from it, or it's not very much. So I feel like they really have to rework that kind of system and make it a little bit more attractive to players to actually engage them in the combat, in the game, and let them try something new, even if it's just for the reward at first time, and then come back and have fun, because it's actually a very fun game mode anyway. Yeah, like exactly, like solo fractals, like something, but it could also be like, if it's an MMO, I think it also could be like, you could scale it, you know, you could say, okay, you can solo it, but you can also play it with a group of 5 people or friends or something, whatever you want to do. I think that would be also amazing, that you had some option to actually scale it. But of course, that's harder to implement, especially in the Guild Wars 2 engine. So maybe we get that, maybe we don't. I don't know. We will see, I guess. I definitely need another fractal system in Guild Wars 3. Yeah, I think the fractal system is one of the best innovations they made in the game. It's so good that even World of Warcraft actually just copied it straight up with Mythic Plus. It's so good. And I think they should definitely do that as well in the Guild Wars 3 when it comes out. Make something like that, but maybe a little bit more innovative, and then it's actually, people would play it a lot. Yeah. Yeah, I think the world bosses in Guild Wars 2 are a very unique feature, and I think that's something that maybe there are two things. Actually, they could make it Guild Wars 3 and say, no, we will not do any world bosses in Guild Wars 3 because Guild Wars 2 is our open world game. They could make that like that, but they could also make it completely different and say, no, we already know how to make open world bosses. Let's do it exactly the same, just improve it even better to stand out from the competition. They could do everything. I don't know. It depends a bit. Both options are viable. I hope for the first one that they actually make a completely different game. But what do I know? What do I know? Yeah, I think what do you think? Do you think it's better to make a game that is a copy of Guild Wars 2 and a better engine? Because that's, in my opinion, somewhat of a unique MMO, because not a lot of MMOs have crazy good open world and world versus world style fights. If you can get better performance there and you have people that actually enjoy it, that could be a good option. Or you could make a completely new game and say, no, Guild Wars 2 is already working, why make a copy of it? That would kill it. Both options will be fine. Really wish they would release some teaser content for Guild Wars 3. I really wish so too. And that would be, to be honest, that would, even if it's just a very small trailer or some kind of comment that they are currently working on it, I would actually be so hyped that I would probably play the rest of the year without any new content in Guild Wars 2 and be hyped about it. I'm actually not joking. It's actually crazy. But I think they will not do it because people might not spend money in the game anymore. I think a new game would be better for Guild Wars 3. I mean, Guild Wars 2 is a very different game from Guild Wars 1. I think so too. I personally think that might be the smarter choice, but I'm not the developer. I'm not the CEO. I'm also not anyone that is in the publishing department. I don't know, you know. Maybe NCSoft pushes them to do something that is not good for the game. Maybe they push not at all. We don't know. We have no clue. Yeah. I don't really care, to be honest. If the game is insane, I'll play it. I have no sunk cost fallacy. I'm enjoying the game right now, and I will play it until I don't. That's what I like. I think that's a good one. I would do the same. If the game is good, I will play it. If it's bad, I wouldn't. And yeah, I would play probably Guild Wars 2 anyway at the same time. Yeah, true. Yes, for me, I want same Guild Wars 2, but in Unreal Engine 5. Okay, interesting. So we have someone that actually wants the second option. I mean, it's fair. I don't know. Not copy, but close. Revamp a few things, but keep it similar to Guild Wars 2. Hope they design it this time around PvE instead of PvP. Yeah, I think they would cut down the emotes. I think one of the things that is definitely a big problem in Guild Wars 2 is that you have world versus world. You have PvP. You have instance PvE, like raids, like missions. But you also have open world. You have some kind of niche game modes like GW2's, so Guild versus Guild. Everything has to be somewhat balanced and kept up to date, or at least get some kind of new stuff all the time. And that's a big problem. That's not something that you actually want to have in a game, because then you have so many things to keep an eye out, and it's not working. So I really hope they focus and niche it down. Make only 2 maybe. Yeah, that's definitely true. Guild Wars 1 as an RPG, Guild Wars 2 as an MMO, and Guild Wars 3 as an ARPG would be kind of cool. I agree, yeah. If one Switch team, Guild Wars 3 will not be good. Maybe. They currently hired, I think, around 40 people or something for the new unannounced project. So it's actually, there are quite amount of new players in the new developers in there. Yeah. Guild Wars 3 will be a fighting game. I mean, maybe. Like, the combat can be quite good, I guess. Yeah. In fact, I kind of hope Arena doesn't listen to the community, just makes what they consider to be a good game, since they are better game devs than the community. I actually agree. I think that's a take that I always bring up in some kind of conversation, that I don't know enough about development to actually say what kind of game would be the smartest choice to develop, because I don't know what their strengths are, what they see themselves as very profound in. So I think that's a good take, but I think they should make some kind of compromise. They should say, okay, which kind of game would be currently quite good in the community. Not only Guild Wars 2, but also in the gaming community. If the gaming community doesn't play ARPGs currently anyway, then maybe not make an ARPG. I don't know. I feel like it has to be some kind of middle ground. You cannot always say, that's our dream, we will make that, and if no one plays it, that's their problem, because then they will not get any money. They also have to listen to the market, of course. In my opinion, PvE is enough. I'm too old for PvP. That's a fair point. I think it's interesting in terms of player base. What kind of player base wants PvP? What kind of player base likes PvE? But at the same time, I feel like it's also times of the development. So if the development time for making 4 game modes takes 4 times the amount of time, and you have a game that is only PvE and you get 4 times the amount of content in the same amount of time, then probably it's better to make an only PvE game. But Guild Wars 2 in the original design was designed as a PvP game. The PvE endgame was not really existing. It was like you wanted to have endgame, play PvP or world versus world. But they completely changed that direction, and that made the game to the mess that it currently is, I would say, in terms of game modes. Yeah. Welcome, DC. Welcome. Most people only play open world instance PvE and world versus world anyway. Open world doesn't need a lot of maintenance. Yeah, I would say yes and no. I feel like the open world community doesn't need a lot of maintenance, but they want open world new maps. You know, you wouldn't say that an open world player is happy with 1 map per year. You know, you want to have an open world player that is actually getting enough content to actually spend new money on new mounts. You know, they want to get more value from their mounts and stuff. If you always have the same content and the same stuff to play, then maybe an open world player will also quit. But I agree, the strike missions and raid instance stuff might be more maintenance than open world. Yeah, maybe. For Guild Wars 3, I hope Ununited fires all the artists, voice actors, and any jobs that can be automated, and hire AI agents. Let me prompt my own dungeons based on my preferences. That would be so sick. I agree, that would be really good. But oh, we have an Untamed 101. Let's go for it. Or is it in 101? Let's have to concentrate on it. I think it's not in 101. Oh, come on. They're at the 101 spot and don't want to take a 101 here. Let's just run away. Oh, the Mirage is following me. Yeah, hot take. I think that might not be the smartest move. Because a Mirage I actually can 101. Oh, the Untamed is also here. Yeah, then I will run away. I don't want to fight two people. I hope they re-implement me being able to skip dialogue and story. That would be amazing. I would actually like that a lot as well, because I feel like I was actually a Chante Wild story. Most of the time I was sitting there and talking to chat and didn't even listen. But it would be way more fun, in my opinion, if I would have the option to just skip the story because I'm not interested anyway and get to the gameplay. Because listening to bears talking that are really slow talking is really bad. I personally think that's not for everyone, and they should make it optional. Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. I think it would be also very amazing if you had the story. Personally, I think the story in Guild Wars 3 should be toned down. I think if it's only one-time story that you play only once, they should not invest a lot of time in that. That might be a hot take, but having games that are focused on story and you only play the story once as a player feels like a lot of development time put into one thing that you then have done in a few hours. I think you should put more time in stuff that is actually farmable. You know, I did Octobrine and that stuff for, let's say, 1,000 times more hours than the story in total. I think that's actually insane. So they should put more effort in new stuff like that than in the story. That's my hot take here. Yeah. Playing Chance Wild Story is a good thing to do when you're in bed, preparing to sleep. It helps a lot. Yeah, it's actually not a joke. I think it's actually true. I think listening to those NPCs, it's actually helping. Yeah. I think I agree, Plebmeister. I think a lot of people actually play for the story, but I feel like it's, in my opinion, not good to entertain a player base that only plays for a few hours to get the story done and don't really play anything else, because those players might not really produce a lot of money. You know, that those might not be the players that actually invest into mounts for open worlds or getting a legendary or something. Maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like players that invest more time in PvE other than story might be more incentivized to play and get more mounts and more gold and stuff. Story should be more of a tutorial that introduces you to farms and gameplay loops. That would be good. I think in that way it's like a tutorial, then it's good. Yeah, I agree. Kind of agree, but Guild Wars 2 handles a little better than other MMOs. Lost Fart forces you to do the story for each character, as you won't be able to progress anything. That's horrible. That's definitely a big problem. I agree. But I think also in Guild Wars 2, I think you should do the story once maybe to get some kind of tutorial to see the combat and stuff. I think that's fair. But to really make it worthwhile to replay, maybe they make it more like some kind of scaling dungeons that you can then use the same instances and make it like fractals and stuff. That would be maybe the smarter choice. Maybe. But they still have to buy the base game. That's true. That's true. But I feel like I would really like to see the amount of split. So how much money do they actually make from the base game cost in terms of money, total money they get from a player, compared to how much money players spend typically on the gem store and the microtransactions. I feel like it's a fraction. Yeah. Some storytelling is done through meta events, which is, I'm already quoted. I mentioned PoE a lot, but generally PoE, the story is being told through logs, books that you can find, exactly which are narrated, but you have the narration playing while you can not. But also have the option to just run the narration off. Yeah, exactly. I think that's the perfect way how to do it, in my opinion, because then people that like the story can listen to it and people that don't can just turn it off. I think that's how you do it. But that also requires you to actually have a good gameplay as well. I feel like the Guild Wars 2 story in the last few patches was more like kill some NPCs, then listen to 2 hours of talking, and then go in the open world, do the meta event, or do some hard quests or some fetch quests, and then you complete another half an hour talk, and that's it. I feel like that's not a good story, because then you have, let's say, in total, maybe 1 story instance that is actually producing gameplay. All the others is just talking. I feel like they just do it to, let's say, prolong the whole thing. That's not good. I agree, Final One. I totally agree. Final Fantasy lives off story, but I personally feel like if you make a new game, would you rather have game that is a game that makes a lot of crazy new content, or have a game that is focused on story and has to compete against let's say, already existing Guild Wars 2 and Final Fantasy and WoW, which has crazy amount of content and story? I feel like it's better to make content that is actually fun to play and replay all the time than making story that is just played through in a few hours. That's my hot take, but I think that's a smarter move. Yeah, it's a great hook. That's true. That's true. They both have several strong DPS builds. Yeah. Every microtransaction lives on Wales, they say, but many people probably just buy and play Guild Wars 2 as story, some with additional content. I would really like to see it. You know, I think a lot of the player base actually play Guild Wars 2, play the game, have fun, just buying the expansions. But I feel like actually a very high amount is also spending some money. Not like whale amount of money, but a decent amount of money I think they would probably spend as well, because Guild Wars 2 doesn't have a subscription fee, you know? I just don't think being forced to stand still and listen is good design. Rather just have a logbook playing a narration. Yeah, actually, I think the moving part is definitely something that I like. You know, I don't like to stand still, listen to something, because I play the game for the gameplay. Yes, Final One is correct. There are a lot of people that play Final Fantasy for the story, definitely. But I'm not one of those players. I want to play a game for the gameplay. If I want to have crazy good story, I would go and listen to maybe some kind of read a book, or would watch a movie, watch a TV show. You know, I want to be active in a game, and I want to be passive consumer in movies, TV shows, and stuff like that. That's a hot take for some people, but that's my opinion. You know? I love stories. I only endured ISO for its good story. Guild Wars 2 has very bad writing, except like Living World Season 4 and Icebreaker's Saga. Guild Wars 1 was much less game than Guild Wars 2, but the story was great. People still played and loved it. I get the point that there's something about finance and production, as it's played once, but then again, a good MMO should be good in most checkboxes. I agree, but I feel like they have to make the decision where to cut. And I feel like if they want to keep up story, PvP, world versus world, open world, instance content, then it might get hard. I'm just saying some stuff they might have to cut. I'm not sure if the story is a smart move, I agree. But for me personally, I would agree if the story would be more active. That's what I like. Yeah. Sometimes I might actually be interested in the story, but standing still just makes me want to skip. Yeah, I feel like that's actually a good point. Maybe I would be more interested if it wasn't be so passive. If it would be more like I can play and still have fun and enjoy the story. Maybe you're right there. Yeah. Guild Wars 2 has no subs, but I pay much more compared to when I play WoW. Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, if that's the majority of players are with you, then it's actually making sense how they make money. But if it's so to say only the exception of the rule that you do it like that, then maybe it's not like for maybe they don't make it much money from them. I don't know. I mean, we could play some DPS Chronomancer and try it out. Let's try. Let's try the Virtuoso rather, I meant, with the Greatsword. most game stories are trash compared to good literature or real world stories, unfortunately. Definitely. That's why I don't like it. I want to play a game that is actually fun to me and has a lot of content for me. And is not, let's say, focused only on a story that might be worse than, let's say, classic mediocre TV shows or books. Yeah. I think you need both. You simply need to satisfy multiple types of people as you are done. That's a very good thing. I totally agree. I think that might be the biggest thing actually that you mentioned here, is just that you have differences in terms of interests, what people like, and people should, in my opinion, accept that not everyone is like them. So sometimes you have people that are actually different in terms of what they want, and if the MMO is not pleasing them, doesn't mean that that's the only thing that they have to do. I agree. Good point. Good point. It's a game. Story have to be told during gameplay. Good point. I think it's not, you don't watch a movie. So you don't want to have some cutscenes playing for 2 hours. You play the game to actually have some kind of just something to do, press buttons and stuff. Definitely. I'm playing the Chantia story now. Never finished it. It's a pain to hear all the dialogues. Yeah, I can understand that for sure. So let's see how much DPS we can actually put out here on a power build in this ranged fractal. I will try my best to also talk to you. I have to concentrate a bit more than usual because it's a new build that I'm playing here. Damn, I must get a grip and start doing the second Ad Infirmum collection. Yeah, I think Ad Infirmum is actually one of the easiest legendaries in terms of the collection, because it's actually not that hard. You just place a lot of fractals and you will actually get it, you know? It's not like you have to do crazy story and collections and stuff. It's actually quite easy to get, I would say. But I wouldn't necessarily dismiss stories or world building either, because if the game wouldn't just have numbers and visuals, it wouldn't have a vibe. Yeah, I think that's a good point. I might be a little bit too gameplay focused. I agree. That is a good point. Not everyone is like me and only wants gameplay. But I think they should make it so that it's actually the story, like they already started doing personally. I think that's a smart move. That they say, okay, our story should not only be used in story, but we should also have the gameplay of the story should be used in content like fractals, like raids and stuff. Just reuse the assets for repeatable content. So they actually have some kind of replayability of the story content. Or maybe make some kind of farms out of the story content. But don't make the story content completely only once and you have crazy instances in the game that are only played once. That's not a good thing in the game. That's not what helps the developers to develop a lot of. Yeah. The only game stories that could compare to old media was like Witcher 3. Maybe. I don't know. I have not played that. I can't tell you. Do you typically care about Spear 2 outer edge damage modifier or just press it off cooldown? The interesting part is you have to actually care, because you actually want to get not only the damage modifier, but you want to get the clarity buff to actually get 2 phantasms. So if you don't get it, you lose a lot of damage. So yes, you should care about it. But the funny thing is, if you stand, like I mostly do, stand in a correct way, and you hit with the inner and the outer ring for most bosses, that's really easy. If you do that, you actually, like this, you actually get the clarity buff anyway. So keep that in mind. That's why it's actually so easy for the most part to actually hit that. Yeah. Has anyone thought about Guild Wars 2 Battle Royale? I think that's actually not very likely, to be honest. The problem is Guild Wars 2 is known for its open world and stuff like that, and not really try-hard PvP. No one plays Guild Wars 2 for the try-hard PvP. Maybe the 10 people that win the monthly ATs on NA and EU, maybe those, but that's about it. Yeah. But the story instances end up in strike missions, like Doctor, for example. Yeah, that's the new thing, how they did it. And I think that's one of the smartest decisions they made, because that's how they should do it. But look at the old story arcs, like from Heart of Thorns, from even POF, and of course the core game. Nothing of those stories actually came up again. So it's a lot of development time to get those things done, and never it was seen again. You know, that's the problem that I want to say here. Yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry, you know, I'm just, if you wouldn't believe me, I'm actually not that old, and I don't play that many different games, especially when it comes to RPGs. I'm playing way more, like, let's say, fast-paced games. I'm playing games for the combat. I don't play typically games for the story. So that's, maybe if you say you have to play Witcher, maybe that's the thing that I have to do then in the next stream, maybe, or something, maybe. But right now, I'm playing Guild Wars 2 and creating content for you. That's my main thing. Yeah. I would rather prefer a survival mode for solo or group with monster waves. I think if it's done well, I think both can work, but I feel like the community in Guild Wars 2 is just not very interested in stuff like that. I think the community, for the most part, wants open world and not really some kind of open world survival style. I think doesn't matter if it's PvP or PvE. I think they just want to kill mobs. They want to have fun in open world, run around with a lot of players where their own gameplay is not that important. I think that's actually what most players actually like about Guild Wars 2. And they maybe can do that in Guild Wars 3. I think that might be a worthwhile thing to do. But I think in Guild Wars 1, and Guild Wars 2 rather, it might not be the smartest move. Because the game is already so established in what the player base actually expects from the developers. I think it might not be. That's also the reason, in my opinion, why push might not be the smartest choice of development time, because people will try it for 1 or 2 weeks when it comes out. But most of the players will probably just go back to PvE or whatever open world stuff they were doing before. That's my, let's say, boring prediction, but I feel like the long-term value of push is actually quite low, personally, I think. I hope I'm wrong there, but I feel like it's not very likely. Yeah, maybe I should play the chapter 1 of Witcher. Good point. Power Boon Chrono was nerfed recently. It got nerfed in April, but it's not like, it's not bad. It's just the DPS is a little bit lower, but it's like, it's still, I would say, A-tier build. Maybe S-tier build because of the utility. It's crazy in the utility. It might not be the best DPS offensive supporter anymore in terms of just raw DPS, but the utility is still unrivaled, I would say. Exactly. People just play world versus world and just follow people around, don't know a lot about the game anyway. I think that's, I don't want to be toxic or anything, but I think a lot of the player base of Guild Wars 2 is like, we want to have fun playing the game. We don't want to think about our rotation. We want to play the game casually. We want to play open world and world versus world. With a lot of other players where my own gameplay is not that important, how well I perform. I think that's the most amount of players that think like that. That doesn't mean it's a bad thing. Don't get me wrong here. I think those players are actually very well to be in the game. I don't mind that. Just saying that's probably the biggest amount of players that actually play the game. Yeah, it's a little bit, a few more K, maybe 2 or 3K less, but it's not, you can still play it. It was just absolutely broken before. Yeah. See you, Kalden. See you, Kalden. Welcome. I hope to see you next time as well. Have a nice day. I'm so used to the old rotation. It's actually insane. It's fine. It's fine. Works anyway quite well, I would say. Filthy's Legion. Interesting, interesting. Oh, come on. So is most of the community casual? Is it hard to find hard mode, competitive gameplay? That's what I'm looking for. So Guild Wars 2 has, I would say, surprisingly enough, I think a lot of players playing. I think Guild Wars 2 in terms of player base, just active player base, not the player base that is currently on, let's say, social networks and stuff. I think about the active player base. I think Guild Wars 2 is probably top 6 MMO or something like that, if I'm not completely delusional here. But, and that's the important part, I think only a small fraction of the community is actually playing really hardcore. Most of the community is playing like somewhat casually. That doesn't mean that you don't have any hardcore players. You can see it by playing PvP and having some World vs. World tryhards, even having some kind of strike and raid mission tryhards. Of course, a lot of them are existing, but it's not like you will encounter them every single day on just pugging randomly. But I would say if you play Guild Wars 2 for the hardcore content, I think Guild Wars 2 has a decent amount of that, and you actually have a decent amount of players playing it, but it's not like you get a lot of new content. So if you start out Guild Wars 2, want to get to tryhard content, you have a lot of stuff ahead of you. But if you want to keep playing the game for the next 10 years and you already are at, let's say, killing all the legendary challenge modes and raid wings and stuff, then I would say the amount of content I put out for you is quite low. So if you're a new player, want to get into endgame and hardcore content, don't worry, there's actually decent amount and a lot of people still doing that. But in terms of new stuff they put out, it's actually not that much. So that's my summary here. I think Summer isn't much of a story-driven man. I can understand that, but even then I think Witcher 3 had some great gameplay. Yeah, I think if you say the story and the gameplay is good, maybe it's worth checking out for me. But I feel like a game that is that I only play for the story, and the story is then good, but not as good as, for example, watching a movie or some kind of TV show that has crazy, surprising storylines, I don't know, where I say, holy shit, I did not expect that one coming. You know, that's something that I would say that's why I watch a movie. I play a game for the gameplay. So if the gameplay in Witcher 3 is really good, maybe I have to try it out. Maybe you're right. Maybe I just missed something really big there. But if it's just, you know, just a game where I say the gameplay is okay and the story is okay as well, then maybe I have to not play it. Depends a bit. Yeah, if you're a new player, then you have a great journey ahead of you. So don't worry. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, for me, it's like Guild Wars. I can't tell you about gameplay. What is going on? Why is he not cheating? Thanks. So for me personally, that might be a hot take, but Guild Wars 2 for me is one, if not the best combat in all games I have ever played. It's perfect. I like it a lot. It's very fluid. It's very, let's say, dynamic, fast-paced, and feels very reactive. And you have a lot of stuff that is actually that I like a lot, you know. But the thing is, if I play another game, I always hold it to Guild Wars 2 and think, okay, is Guild Wars 2 having better combat than this game? If yes, then maybe I should just go back and play Guild Wars 2. You know, that might be a really hot take, but I feel like every single game that I play, I try to compare to Guild Wars 2, and if the combat is worse, then I have to think about it a lot if I actually want to play it. Because I play games for the combat and the gameplay. Yeah. Witcher is cinematic gameplay? Okay. Ooh, that's a lot of damage. That was a very bad CC. Ah, we lost one player. Interesting. The worst DPS just left randomly? What? So weird. What's going on here? At least it's not daily, so we might find a replacement quite easily. True, Guild Wars 2 combat is great. I think it's better than even BDO. BDO is good, but I think it's a little bit extra for an MMORPG. I think for me, I tried BDO. I think the BDO combat is quite nice. I think it has its advantages and disadvantages compared to Guild Wars 2. I think it's not like completely clear which one is better personally. But what I think about BDO was what I don't like is the pay to win aspect. And I think Guild Wars 2 is way more friendly in terms of how I can actually play the game without having to spend crazy shit and stuff. Oh, come on. So personally, that's my biggest issue with BDO. It's more like that the combat is okay. It's not the thing that is bothering me most of the time. It's more like the stuff that is behind the game, how the development and the publishing is done. It feels like that's why I don't play it. But I think if it's just for the combat, I actually might like BDO quite a lot. Yeah. So now I think we have to do a lot of CCing here. Just to make sure that we actually get everything. Yeah, we got it. S4. That's what you can see. Sometimes you just have to have good players with you, and we can easily CC S4. I feel the same just for Elder Scrolls. That's the game I'm coming from. Their combat is awesome, action-based, and have light attack weaving. I think that sounds good. I think I heard very different opinions about Elder Scrolls. I'm not sure if I should check it out. People said it's really good. People said it's really bad, the combat. I'm a little bit, confused what is the case. I think I might just have to try it myself. But like I said, currently I have a lot of stuff to do with Guild Wars 2, so maybe I will not be... It's like one player said it's like we didn't lose a person at all. We didn't feel it. Yes, I didn't take feedback. Don't call me out on it again. I'm just learning the greatsword variant and I was too focused on reading the chat. Yes, you're correct. I didn't play feedback. I was taking actually care of the no pain, no gain. I had 25 boon strips, more than, let's say, 3 times the amount than my Scourge. So that's what I was taking care of. But yes, you're right. I should have taken feedback. Isu Pro gameplay is too glitchy and abusable, so the server lags. That doesn't sound like I like it then. I personally like to have very smooth servers. That's one of the things why I like Guild Wars 2 so much, like I mentioned earlier. I like to play the game and I can log in whenever I want, The server will be good, Actually toxic gameplay? Oh no, don't tell me that. Thanks VXY for the follow. Really appreciate it. Issues about implementing subclassing with the means you have to mix all the classes. That's why I'm leaving. The servers definitely have issues. No, that doesn't sound like perfect thing then. Should we take stability or greed for DPS? I guess let's greed. Let's greed. We trust our support here. Maybe that's a problem. Mounts on Guild Wars 2 are the best mechanic I ever saw in a game like that. I think I would agree. I didn't play all the MMOs, so I can't tell you. But personally, I would agree. I think the mounts in Guild Wars 2 are extremely well done. Especially like the Skystale, like the Roller Beetle. I think even the basic ones like the Raptor feel really good. It's like you go on the mount and you have really good amount of speed and still having seeing the map and stuff and the combat, and it feels like it's still, I don't know, it feels like a very good, I don't know, very, very well done thing, definitely. Nice, I got the burst. I actually got the burst. Good job. And when I played different endgame gear sets, gave you glitch capabilities to abuse. That doesn't sound that great, I have to be honest. I think Skystale ruined a lot of mounts. I wish it never got into the game. I personally agree. I think the Skystale is too broken in what it does. I think it's the best overall mount to use for the most part. And I think if they wouldn't have introduced it, I think the other mounts would have been more unique and more useful for that matter. because now it feels like the sky scale is more like you could go and use another mount, but why would you? Because the sky scale is just better or easier to use for the most part. You could use the Springer, but why would you? You can use the sky scale. So I feel like, yes, I would agree. But I feel like a lot of stuff in Guild Wars 2 should have not been added to the game, and then it would have been better. For example, Alacrity and Quickness, if they would have never added that to the base game to say this is a boon that exists, or wouldn't have that made it permanent, then I think that would be the best thing that they ever would have changed in the past. Just the gameplay would be more reactive and not only saying, yeah, I have it permanently and that's how we balance the game. No, it would be in the burst phase, you give, let's say, 3 seconds of quickness and then you get more burst damage out or something. That would be way better, way more interesting than just having like this every boon up permanently. Mounts are simultaneously the best implementation and the worst. The fact that you can immediately use the mounts on new maps actually ruins the maps. That's a good point. I think mounting in new maps makes the maps feel way less interesting because you can get through them way faster. But I feel like the mount system in general is probably why a lot of the open world player base actually buys a lot of those mount skins, because the mounts are actually really fun to use. You wouldn't buy a skin for something that's actually really unfun. Not you use it, don't use it a lot. I wish Charleston reverts to 5 target. Good point. That would feel better as well. Yeah. I only use Skyscale or Warclaw. I love Warclaw because you can mount in combat. Griffin is very niche. Yeah, I think most of the mounts except the Skyscale are very niche or somewhat niche. Like the Skyscale I use a lot. The Warclaw I use decently. The Roller Beetle if I want to move really fast. The Griffin if I want to move really fast and have some vertical limit. But the Sky, let's say Raptor, Springer, Jackal and Skimmer, I use them somewhat frequently, but not really in a high amount of time. You know, it's just sometimes I use them. That's about it. What? How did this work? So imagine having specific gear sets to abuse boons or endurance while having to animation cancel while switching weapon sets. That sounds like a very complex thing, but I feel like if it's not forced to do it, if you can do it and you get better results, but you don't have to do it, then I think it's actually, it sounds like a cool thing to do. For me, at least, as a tryhard player, or as someone that is actually liking to try hard. Yeah. Yeah, Roller Beetle is very fun in my opinion. That's why you can actually do the event currently. It's actually quite nice to do. Only reason not to use Skyscale is Beetle and Griffin and only in selected maps. Exactly. That's the problem. That's why I think the Skyscale is too strong and the game might have been better without the Skyscale. Because you actually can use it everywhere and you will be really, really, really happy if you can use it. You know, it's just very easy to use. It provides a lot of value and it's just very flexible. Yeah. Is it me? No, it's not me. Oh, it's me. I had it too that the main thing keeps me away from raids. The necessity to have and keep all the boons, not fun at all. Yeah, I think that's I think if you're a veteran, you wouldn't play the game if it wouldn't be the case. You know, you want to have that in the game, but for balancing reasons, I think that should not be the case. I think personally having the, so to say, more skilled gameplay of having boons up at the correct time and not just permanently, that makes it way less interesting, in my opinion. But yeah, I think that's not something that they will ever change or go back to. It's just not possible. It's just not what actually the game is able to do. I think they can never go back to something that is so, you know, important in the game right now. Yeah. I think Final Fantasy has the perfect implementation to strict mounts on new maps. You have to explore the story. I did that as I played Final Fantasy for a bit and I agree. I think this is a very good system to make the new maps actually more interesting. But I think Guild Wars 2 would not be able to do that because in Guild Wars 2, a lot of the players really like to have their mounts. And if they would do that, then people would be really, you know, sad and say, oh, this map is horrible. I have to walk for 10 hours. Even if they don't understand that it's actually the reason why they have to walk is because they need to explore the map first and then they can use mounts and it's a more healthy way to explore the map. But I feel like a lot of people, especially the typical forum warriors, would actually say, oh, I don't like it. We have to walk so much. So I think they are scared of that, you know. Verdant Drink with or without Skyscale is a completely different game. Yeah, definitely. I think Verdant Brink is one of the most fun things to explore. I was grinding that really hard back in the day when it came out for all the map completions and stuff. And it was one of the most, let's say, fun ways to actually play. It's quite nice to play Power Virtuoso because I don't lose any damage for killing the anomaly. I agree 100%. Jumping puzzles are garbage and it sucks so hard that you have to do them for some essential achievements. Yeah, I agree. I'm not the biggest jumping puzzle fan, but I feel like at the same time, something they have to put in those achievements, you know? There's always someone that says, oh, you have to do it, I don't like it, you know? So I guess I agree with you that it's bad that it's jumping puzzles and not everyone can do jumping puzzles very well or enjoys them at least. But I think something has to be in the collection, you know? If there's nothing in there that is somewhat hard or somewhat, you know, unique in terms of what you need to do, then no one would do that, or the collections would be really, really boring. I don't know. I feel like you have to find a middle ground, and I think most of the time, most of the collections actually can be done quite easily, especially if you have someone that actually portals you to the jumping puzzle, if it's not something that is really hard like the Ember Bay one. Wounds are not the problem is having to keep them up 100% of the time. Exactly. I feel like wounds are actually a really cool thing. I like the buff system. I think it's really interesting and very unique. But the problem is that it's like 100% of the time that it's up, it feels like it's more like a permanent stat boost. And that's not something that's very interesting. Especially if you explain it to a new player, that a support not only has to heal or tank, but a support also has to upkeep those wounds, which are just permanent stat boosts. It feels really weird. It's not something that is very intuitive and really making the game easier for the most part. But I hate World vs. World as well because of the Gift of Battle. Yeah, I feel like that's again the same thing. You know, they wanted to make it... Oh, come on, don't drop the thing on me. I think it's the same thing. They just want to make something that is actually for people that actually play different game modes and make them, force them to do something. But at the same time, it's also not... I get why you would say you don't like it, but I feel like at the same time, it's okay to actually make players play everything, because a legendary is something that you want to grind for. It's not something that you get just for playing the game passively. You should actually go for the legendary and have some kind of achievement behind it, and not only say, oh yeah, I've played the game for 5 hours and now I have it. But it's more like you really say, I go out of my way to achieve this kind of legendary. I think that makes sense in my opinion. Imagine if map complete unlocked Skyscale, that would be glorious. I mean, they could make something like that. I think it's not too completely crazy, to be honest. They could make something like that, yeah. You could just restrict advanced mounts like Skyscale Griffin and Dragomancer like Raptor Bunny. It would be fine. I think that would be a nice middle ground. I agree, that would be actually quite good, to be honest. Ooh, we have a portal. Crazy tryhard here. But then the portal is completely irrelevant because this guy didn't accept. Ah, so good. Let me kill 100 wrappings 100 times rather than the jumping puzzle. Fair. You could make some alternative to not make you do the jumping puzzle. I think that's fair. I think they did it to some extent with the Skyscale, for example. You can actually say either I go for some kind of achievements or I just purchase them for gold. I think that's a middle ground. I think it's not the most interesting way to earn it, but I feel like I can agree that this is actually somewhat reasonable. Yeah, I would agree. Also, Gift of Battle is like 3 hours nowadays. That's hardly a problem. I think the interesting part about this is that you actually can just say it's 3 hours of you AFKing for the most part and coming back to the PC or doing something every 10 minutes. So I'm not joking. So actual playing time is more like 15 minutes while you do actually something in the background, like watch a movie or something. So I think it's not really that hard, Gift of Battle. Jumping puzzles, I can understand a little bit more because the jumping puzzles can be, especially for, let's say someone is a little bit, you know, has a disabled problem and can't, let's say, jump that easily or has just it's not that easy for them to play the game and they still want to get some kind of achievement, that can be quite annoying, you know. But for a player that actually can do jumping puzzles quite fine, I think there are not that many achievements that actually force you to actually do the jumping puzzle. I don't know, maybe I'm a little bit too harsh there, but I feel like jumping puzzles is okay as well. Yeah. It's not like you have to do them every day to actually get an achievement, at least as far as I know. Is there a jumping puzzle you can't teleport to friend? Yeah, there are some where you have to get multiple checkpoints. I mean, you could do it somewhat with teleport to friend, with multiple teleport to friends, but for the most part, for example, the Ember Bay one or the new one in Enchanted Wilds, you have to get to some specific checkpoints, and there are multiple ones of those. I think there are like 5 or something, maybe even more. Or the Silver Waste one, for example. Those jumping puzzles, you actually have some kind of restriction in terms of you can't portal to the end. And then it's a little bit more annoying, but you can still get someone that actually portals you. And it will be actually fine as well. Yeah, I can get that final one. I completely get it. You don't want to go into PvP. So that's the thing. You don't want to play PvP or World versus World. And that's why you don't want to engage with it. That's fair. You know, that's a completely fair thing. And that's a criticism that I can completely understand. But it's also a criticism that ArenaNet has to fix. I can't tell you that is the way that they have to do it, because I personally don't mind it. But if they say that's what we actually want you to do to actually get a legendary, then you just have to accept that, or maybe just buy it, you know? Yeah. You can't be pro Guild Wars 2 gamer if you can't press spacebar. Yeah, I mean, the most important thing if you want to be a pro gamer in Guild Wars 2 is that you can actually jump dodge, you know? If you can't jump dodge, what are you doing, you know? You're not actually playing Guild Wars 2 at all. So, spacebar is the most important button, of course, you know? Also on this fractal, actually, to actually jump over the shockwaves here. Ah, yes, someone wants in the guild. Silver West one, you can sky scale, I'm pretty sure. That can be true. Maybe you're right there. Maybe you're right there. I'm not sure, but I think the thing, what I mentioned is, if you want to get, for example, the old jumping puzzles, you can go to a Mesmer, say, portal me up there, and they just jump down, portal you up, and you have it. On, let's say, the Silver West one, on the Ember Bay one, those ones, you actually have to get multiple portals, or use break it with the sky scale if that's working. Something like that, yeah. How you know why we must do jumping puzzle with jump doors? Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Ooh, almost forgot to swap back to my greatsword. Let's go, let's go. So let's get the burst down. This time I have to concentrate. You know, the last few times I actually didn't get the burst correctly. Now we want to get the burst correctly. Nice, we got a higher burst than the Weaver. That's what we want to see. Power Virtuoso is the new best spec for fractals. Confirmed. If you can play it, of course. No. I lost my damage. No, I lost everything. I lost my DPS. That's too bad. Nice. And I concentrate, I actually get top DPS. That's good to know. Good to know. Good build. You don't want to burst too soon? Yeah, very good point. I mean, me as a human, I don't really like to burst. That's not a good thing, I would say. But if you enjoy if you enjoy power classes, I think bursting is a good thing. I think PvE should get another legendary ring called Jump Master, and you need to complete Talus of Tears 300 times so that they lock out no other materials. Oh my god, the people that actually play those jumping puzzles, you know, those people that actually teleport you up there, those would get rich from that if they would include that. It has to have some crazy skin as well, so that people would really like to go for it. That would be amazing. That would be such a meme. I would actually think that's arena that would throw so hard when you do this. The amount of people that would cry in the forums, that would be insane. You know, it would be absolutely crazy. By the way, completely off topic, sorry, that's fine. But can you do some PvP guides? Like mid-tier guides? Because almost all guides are for beginners only. Most of my friends and guildies who want to, maybe I have to read that here after this jumping thing, otherwise I die. Give me a minute. Looks, oh my god, where's this quickness? They reach a certain skill level and then stop there because PvP in Guild was just too much going on for a normal PvE player. Yeah, I think I should do that, but what exactly do you have in mind? Some kind of kiting guide or some kind of how to get, let's say, kill people in a platinum match, or what kind of guide would you want to see? Because it's probably not a build guide then, because they have probably already some kind of meta build or something. Comboing, okay. Counter peeling. Yeah, the problem is, I feel like the problem is a lot of players, you know, on my YouTube content, I try to make content that helps players, of course. Yeah, that makes sense. But the problem is, if there is only a handful of players interested in PvP, then my videos don't get a lot of views, and I feel like my hours that I put in there I feel like so punished for that, you know? I put a lot of effort in my commentaries. I made a while ago a series on PvP where I put a decent match of mine, where I played a match that not always worked out well for my team, but a match where I could analyze my rotations, my mistakes, my things, my thought processes, and that kind of stuff in the match, you know, where I talk about the commentary, playing a full match and commentate it after that. And I think that's a very good guide for players that want to improve and already have some kind of gameplay. But the problem is that if I do that and make a really crazy good PvP guide, the problem is the player base in PvP is so low. If you look at the current leaderboard, there are like 100 players in Platinum. So even if I get a decent amount of players that want to improve from those, let's say, that you say want to actually watch the video, the amount of players that watch the video is probably around 100. And it feels like I'm putting hours and hours in this video and then 100 people watch it. And it feels like so punishing, you know, it feels so bad. You know, I'm a content creator after all. I don't want to say, the YouTube algorithms should not say in my face, this is a shit video. You know, I always want to have a video that people actually enjoy watching and not only to a very, very small niche of the already small community. That's the sad truth there. Yeah. If I can make a video, if you come up with a comment that is, let's say, do you give me a really good topic that is not only interesting for, let's say, somewhat good but not very good PvP players, but also for new players, then I probably will do it. But for players that are very niche, that are already decent at the game mode but want to improve at it, it's like probably better to watch my stream while I play a lot of PvP, which I will do next week. When push comes out, I will probably push the whole week, if that makes sense. So then I can talk a bit more about that. But yeah, that's just my honest take there. In my opinion, the world is perfect. Choose your content and go for it. I wish there would be the same approach for legendaries. I agree that if they would do that for legendaries, that would be amazing. Good point. Good point. That they already have the solution for that. Good point. Yeah. What class melee do you recommend to top and main for all game modes? I would say for all game modes, I think Elementalist right now is really, really good. It's extremely strong in all game modes. My second pick would probably be Mesmer. Those two are really good. Maybe Guardian. Guardian Elementalists. Guardian will always be top tier. Mesmer and Elementalist are currently top tier, but ArenaNet sometimes nerfs them. Guardian will never get nerfed. It's always really good. But if you help one person, it's worth it. That's a good point, DC. That's good. But I feel like, would you put hours into some kind of content just to help one person? You know, hours? Really? Hours? Would you do that? Of course, I would like to help the community, but it's really that small of amount of people that actually watch my video. I feel like I'm getting really... It doesn't feel that good, you know? It doesn't feel that good. Yeah, for those 100, I would be a legend. Maybe. Maybe you're convincing me here right now. Maybe you're right. Maybe you're right. Yes, exactly. Push, push, push. And then after 2 matches, I get so much, let's say, negative energy that I have to stop streaming because the players are just too much to handle for my mental health. Let's see how it goes. I still have 1 week until I have to come through, to make this promise come true. Yeah. You're not nice. Okay, I guess that's a good excuse. Yeah, I can see that. Push should be interesting, T-Bot said, because of the one node. Snowballing will be worse than Conquest. It is. Last time we had this push game mode coming out, I played, let's say, I think 50 games or something, and it was really horrible because sometimes I had a match where it was over in 2 minutes, which was good because sometimes you don't want to be in a match like in Conquest where it takes 10 minutes, even though after 2 minutes you already know the team is bad and will lose probably. And you still have to play for 10 minutes because it's very slow. In push, you don't have that typically, but in push, that makes it also way harder to carry to some extent because the players sometimes are they just lose continuously and then the snowball keeps going and you lose. That feels also very bad. I think it has its advantages and disadvantages. That much is for sure. You know, it's not necessarily a bad thing if you have snowballing. I think that can be good or bad. Yeah. Why do you think Guild Wars 2 isn't as popular as WoW or Final Fantasy, considering it's a good game? I think it's more like it started out as a niche game and now it's a little bit less niche, but the advertisement was already bad all the time, and that's a big problem. I think the bad advertisement didn't help, while as the crazy, so to say, casual community is also something that they didn't really incentivize in the beginning, and then they changed after a while. And you know, making a PvP game in the beginning and changing after a while to a casual audience is not something that is actually helping a lot. So I feel like they made a lot of mistakes in the beginning that now is too late to actually fix them, and that's why Guild Wars 2 player base is lower than it should be. It's actually higher than you would expect. That's the interesting thing here. A lot of people would say it's low and the game is dead, but it's definitely not the case. It's actually one of the most alive MMOs out there. But it's not like it's very active on the social media. That's the problem. Is race choice important in Guild Wars 2? No, not at all. You can play whatever you find looks the best. Nothing really matters when it comes to the choice of the race. Yeah, Guardian are good in guarding themselves from their nerfs. That's true. Guardian is just the favorite child of ArenaNet. It never got nerfed that much that it's unplayable. It's every single spec is actually quite decent right now, at least. It's honestly so hard to find good high-end content for Guild Wars 2 on YouTube. Even if I search for specific PoE on CM, LCM, PvP, YouTube won't show it to me without scrolling past Guild Wars 2's first impression newbie stuff. Yeah, it's really hard because the problem is the really tryhard community is very small, and most of them just don't have any YouTube content. They if at all, they stream. But most of the time, it's more like they just play the game. No, didn't get it. It's fine. Let's make a rule for push. You can only swear in German, so we can have some fun. Okay, I will do that. I will have some really nice swears, really nice swearing. That is even for Germans not to be understood. Yeah, that will be fun. You will like it. I will have some really cool list for you to actually look up what the words actually mean. That will be fun. I will like it. Yeah. Only choose humans because Survivors are basically cabbage. Asurans are online hackers and scammers. Char savage wowmongers. None are humans but large, so I think they're cool maybe. I think it's a very personal take. It's not really changing too much about the game. I think it doesn't change at all. Guild Wars never had huge marketing. They are super big for almost zero ads. Yeah, I think the problem is that the ads they actually pushed out. the infamous Taxi ad is actually, they are really bad. If they hadn't done those ads, they would actually have a better amount of player base, I would say. The marketing is really bad. The recent trailers are decent, but it's not really selling the game for what it is. It's not really telling us the combat is good. It's more like the story is in the focus, and they don't tell us about the crazy good maps, the mounts and stuff. It's very too little shown of the game. They could show world versus world. They could show the open world maps, the mounts and stuff, but typically they don't, and it feels like it's just not. It doesn't feel the marketing is done right. That's the thing. Yeah. Humans are God-chosen people, none are big humans, so if you're into muscly, Silvari are fake plants, Asura are evil bastards. I personally think all of them have their flavor, but it's not like it's really mattering for anything in the game. Especially if you play competitive modes, you will probably not see your character most of the time anyway, to an extent that it matters. I personally had a lot of fun playing all characters to some extent. I just have to say the fashion for humans is probably the best, because for humans, the fashion is actually perfectly suited. For all other, maybe for Silvari and Norn, not that much, but for Char and Asura, there are some clipping issues, and it's not perfectly in terms of fashion, I would say. But other than that, I think nothing really matters. Yeah. How can you see all the time that blue circles on your screen? This is my mouse cursor. If you type !mouse in the Twitch chat, you actually get an explanation of how it works. It's a special, let's say, add-on of Blishut, and I have a guide on my YouTube channel about it. So !mouse if you want to see how it works. It's just even if I press both mouse buttons, I see where my mouse currently is. That's helping me a lot to actually find all the mouses, all the locations and stuff, and keep the combat a little bit more clear. Or we have some exploiter here. That's good. Hopefully we can. Let's say it's not good, but it's helping us to actually get this done faster. So we have a really try-hard Fractal player here, I guess. Hello, people, kill the enemies. The only race choice that actually matters would be Char due to elite race skill precast memes. I going, come on. If you're at a point like that, then you probably could also create just a new character slot for that. But you're right. Sometimes the racial skills on Char can be interesting for precasting. But I mean, it's very, yeah, not very likely. When I was Guild Wars 1 appeared like, poof, I'm here. Interesting. Makes it pretty hard to get into high-end groups in Guild Wars 2 as well. The core community has been at it for years. Yeah, that's always a problem. If a game is already out for 10 years or something, it's always quite hard actually to get into the really try-hard groups, because they are already quite experienced at everything. And if you want to get there, you have to just commit a lot of time and effort, and at some point you might reach it, but it's not that easy. Yeah. Meanwhile, in WoW, I could pick up and get hired in a couple of months. There's so many resources available. Yeah, I think that's a problem, that the player base in Guild Wars 2 is just too small to have crazy good resources. I think you can find actually YouTube videos for most content. You just have to know where to look. So if on my, let's say, private YouTube channel where I have my Guild Wars 2 feed and subscription and stuff, I have, let's say, over 100 Guild Wars 2 content creators that only have like 100 subscribers or something that are really try hard in the game, like speedrunning and that kind of stuff. Then you see some kind of, so to say, player that actually has some crazy good knowledge about the game, tryhards like LCMs and stuff, and see the different POVs of that. But it's not like public and everyone sees that at the first glance when you load YouTube and search for a specific boss. Yeah, that I totally see the issue here, definitely. But you know what can you do? I mean, maybe ArenaNet should give more sponsors, or like, let's say, more partners out. I personally, for example, I'm not a ArenaNet partner, and I produce quite a lot of Guild Wars 2 content, so I really hope that they will, let's say, accept me at some point in the future. I really hope so. But how can they improve that? How can you make more content for Guild Wars 2? I mean, I tried to make a lot of content for Guild Wars 2, but I can't do it on my own. So I feel like the community has to help out there to actually make all the guides and stuff possible. Yeah. Engine is trash. You can lag in most content, even with newer PCs. I don't know. I feel like the Guild Wars 2 engine is, they reworked it a while ago to some extent. I feel like since then I have actually a decent amount of frame rates every time in every content, above 60 for the most part. But of course, if you're looking for 140 or something, then that might not be perfect and easily doable for most PCs. That is true. It's just an old game in that sense. The engine is 20-year-old at this point. I think that's a very good point why they actually want to increase, or should, in my opinion, make a new engine that is up to date, and then they could do a new game out of that. Or maybe make Guild Wars 2 a really big rework of Guild Wars 2 for that matter. Maybe. Can I join more than one guild at a time? Yes, you can't be in 6 guilds at the moment. 6 guilds at the moment. Sorry. Yeah. So you can only represent one, so you will only see one of them in the, so to say, window, or in this tag thingy here. But other than that, you can be in 6 at the same time, so you have 6 guild chats. Holy shit, my language is stopping to work here. Yeah, so don't worry, 6 can work here. Willbender with full Marauder gear, how much DPS should I be doing? Something around like, I don't know, 25? 20, no, maybe more. I don't know the number from my heart, but it should be probably full Marauder. No, it has to be higher. 30? I'm not sure. I have to check it. I can tell you next stream. I will check it and I will tell you next stream. Don't worry, it come with time. I'm sure I'm not the only one seeing the potential in you. You will be our partner if ArenaNet don't want you. I hope so. It's a nice thing of you to say. I hope so. Yeah. Yeah, it's really old. It's just the same engine, a little bit upgraded, but it's not too much of a difference. Oh, we have someone portaling. Very nice. Very good tryhard people here. I like it. Unreal Engine 5 will ruin gaming? Oh no, don't say that. Hopefully Guild Wars 3 is not developed in Unreal Engine 5 then, if that's the case. Honestly, I feel like Guild Wars 2 works pretty well FPS-wise, can run around with 50 people in metas with 60 plus FPS, meanwhile in WoW that would melt the CPU. I don't know. I think there are people that say it's horrible, there are people that say it's good. I think for me personally it works. I think if I have the correct settings up, I have 60 FPS for almost every content that I do. Or sometimes in PvP, of course, I have 250. It depends highly on how many people are around me. But of course, I feel like it's very... yeah, content dependent what I'm currently doing, if the FPS are good. But personally, I think it doesn't matter to me if I have 60 FPS or 100. If it looks fluid enough to actually work, then I'm happy. And I feel like the performance in Guild Wars 2, even if I'm streaming and recording at the same time and stuff, it still works decently well. I think for me, it's not a big issue, but I can see why people would say it's actually not that up to date. Yeah, that's definitely true. Was fun to watch. Also, chat people, you cool. See you. Thanks for joining. Was nice discussions. Welcome, Tsuki. Welcome. I want to start Guild Wars 2. First time, but then I heard Guild Wars 3 is coming. Is it worth to jump on Guild Wars 2 anymore? It's quite expensive, lol. So, first of all, you can play Guild Wars 2 for free. You can try out Guild Wars 2 for free. So there is a free trial, I would say. So you can get to level 80 and explore the maps and stuff. So you can just download it and play it for free. But the rumor is that there is a Guild Wars 3 developed. We don't know anything about it. So personally, I think the likelihood that you will not have at least 3 to 5 years until Guild Wars 3 comes out is very high. And we might not even get a Guild Wars 3 in the future. So don't worry about it. If you enjoy this, what you're currently seeing, my gameplay and the stuff, just try it. And you can buy one expansion after the other. And you will actually have a, let's say, very decent amount of content, even if you don't purchase all the expansions. So I would actually try it if you like it. Game was released in 2012, should be able to play with 10-year-old PCs. Need a 2020 plus PC for the good FPS. I think if you have the settings like I currently have, then you don't need a crazy good PC for that. Especially if you tune it down to very low, then it's actually very easy. I actually played it on a very old PC as well. Not a good one, just a very easy game laptop, and it was actually working decently well. So I think it's, if you have on ultra setting, yes, then it's hard. But if you turn down some settings, it's actually, in my opinion, not that bad. Yeah. Guild Wars 3 isn't actually confirmed. It was just a semi-confirmation that Guild Wars 3 has been lit to the development sometime in the future. Yeah, I feel like the likelihood that we will get a confirmation very soon is quite low. But don't worry. Just play Guild Wars 2. It's a fun game right now. And there is nothing that actually keeps you from playing Guild Wars 2. And even if they announce it, Guild Wars 2 will not be dead in the next 3 years. That much is for sure. So you have 3 years of content. Oh, and there is already 10 years of, or 12, 13 years of content out there. So there is a lot of stuff to do in Guild Wars 2. So don't worry about that. Played on my laptop when on vacation, which is from around 2020, and I have to everything on low for 144 FPS. I mean, that sounds good, but that's good enough for me. What's the problem then? So here I have another problem. I've met some characters and played them from some time. Like to level 5, 10, I like Ranger and Guardian and can't decide. Roll the dice for me, lol. So first of all, I think you should go for the one that you enjoy the most. If you have no preference, I think you should maybe make the decision based on the gameplay that you might get when you get to level 80. So if you type ! classes in the chat, well, I will do it, give me a sec. Then you can check out my video here where I showcase every single class, how it looks at level 80. So you can check it out and see how the gameplay is actually nice. But it's obviously not something that you can, I can't tell you play Guardian, play Ranger, because it's absolutely the thing that you might like. So I personally think you should go for the one that looks the best at level 80. So just try out what the video shows you. And if you still have no preference, I would personally say Guardian is a little bit more flexible, whereas Ranger is more, so to say, currently really good. But I personally think the flexibility is a little bit worse than Guardian. Guardian is just the favorite child of ArenaNet, and that makes it just so that it's crazy in terms of what they actually buff it up all the time and they don't nerf it all the time. So I think Guardian might be the safer pick for the future, but it doesn't mean it's actually, I don't know. I think both of them are really good. I can't tell you for the most part. Now I have to clean this very, very crazy inventory. Let's see how fast I can do it. Now just a technical question, is Ranger able to play tank role if I chose to? Yes, every class can play tank role. Druid is really good, which is one of the elite specs of Ranger. It's really good at tanking. So don't worry, that will be covered as well. But Guardian can also do tanking. So I think tanking should not be your priority. Every class can do tanking in Guild Wars 2. Tanking is really weird in Guild Wars 2 because it's not based on the class or anything. It's always based on the gear that you equip. So if I want to play an Elementalist, if I want to play a Necromancer, whatever, everything works as a tank if you have the correct gear equipped. Yes, that's how it works. So almost done, a little bit more. Play Soldier Barebow and spam Longbow 4. No, please don't do that. That's not what you should do. Don't listen to him. Enjoy the game until you get to level 80. You want to get into raids, then you should play the builds that are actually very good at the game. Don't play builds that are just, yeah, I don't know, your own craft that is not very good. Try to go with the meta builds if you play with a group, because in a group you don't want to grief them. That's my takeaway. If you play solo, you can play whatever you like, but if you play with a group, really try to actually be considerate and think about what's the stuff that you actually bring to the group, what value, what you role you fill, all of that. Bring some consideration with you. Yeah. But I personally think Guild Wars 2, the class design is so well done in that, especially when it comes to PvE, that you can play any class in any role and you will actually be happy. Yes, sometimes warriors are a little bit weaker when it comes to healing output, but for the most part, all classes can actually be quite flexible. Yeah. And especially the two that you mentioned, don't worry about it. Guardian and Ranger, good spot. Especially when it comes to tanking. Both of them had very good tanking builds. So let's open for 100 gold thing here. Where is it? There we go. By the way, I noticed that classes usually have their associated colors. So for example, I saw on YouTube videos, Ranger has a lot of green animations, Guardians has a lot of those blue-yellowish, including items, shining effects, etc. Are we doomed to stay with that color theme with legendary items? So if I misunderstood something. So don't worry. So the idea is, yes, your attacks or your skills here, you can't decide how they look. So they will, I'm currently on Mesmer, so they would always have this kind of dark purple pinkish style. But my character itself can completely look completely different. So I can currently have this design, but I could go and dye my outfit or my stuff that I currently equip. And I could go and say, okay, I make it, for example, everything green. So my character itself could be walking around like that. So yes, the character can be dyed like you want to, but the purple stuff and, for example, that the pink daggers here are floating around me, this will always stay the same color. So the character can be designed like you want to be, but the class design, so how the weapons look, how the weapon skills look, how the skills itself look, how the class profession looks, that's always like this. Yeah, you can't change that. Yeah, good point by Cobalt, yeah. The daggers will always be there. So if you don't like them in pink, yeah, either don't play the class or ignore them. If you go for another class, then you will have better time and have maybe something different there. It's just how the game is designed. They have no skins of their animations, so to say. It's always the same animation. If you don't like it, if you like it, that's how it is. It's actually quite expensive, nice. And what about legendary items? From what I understood, they give interesting perks, but also look great. Are they class tied or universal? So in Guild Wars 2, all the gear that you get, all the best in slot gear, ascended and legendary, you can transfer between your characters. So if I have a character that uses a spear, for example, like all characters can nowadays, you can change the spear from one to another character. If you have the legendary, you actually unlock it in your wardrobe. So it's not an item anymore, it's just keep stuck in your panel, so to say, in the hero panel. And you can easily say, okay, I have now a spear equipped, now I want to switch to an X. I can easily do that from my legendary. And every single character has access to this. And this is very interesting because legendaries not only give you the best stats that you have, but you can also switch your stats on the fly. So currently I'm having Berserker, which is a power-based stat. If I want to go for damage over time, I would, for example, go for Celestial or something like that. Switch around, just make one accept, and then the gear is swapped. Yeah. So I can easily switch. That's the first thing of legendaries. The second thing that is really cool is, yes, they come with a really nice skin, like you can see with my spear. It has some really nice animation, and yeah, not everyone likes it, but it also has some footsteps behind you and stuff like that. But you can also change the skin of this legendary. You can just go to, where is it, wardrobe here, and say, okay, I want a different spear skin. Maybe I go for the tormented one. And then it looks different when I equip, and this looks done like this. Or this is completely free. You can have the legendary equipped and can just change the skin of the legendary if you want to. Or you can go for this one, whatever you like. So there are a lot of skins to collect in the game. And so to say, the legendary makes it completely free to swap to them. So yes, it's very easy and it's not class tied, or it's completely universal for that matter. Welcome, Product Sign. Welcome. Yeah, I'm doing well. Hope you're doing well too. Yeah, so I would say overall, don't underestimate how good legendaries are, especially when it comes to armor. And I also think trinkets are really good. Weapons are like little bit less universally good because some classes use only one kind of weapon and another class might use another one. So that means that you might not use the same weapon and you waste, so to say, a little bit of the effort that you put in. But if you want to go for it, then there's a lot of stuff. So can we use only the skin without the item itself? I'm so more concerned about looks than use. So can you use only the skin without the item? Yes, you can. So you can equip another, but why would you? Why would you equip the best stats from a spear that you want to get is from the legendary. You can just reskin the legendary, or you can also use another spear and put the legendary skin on top if you want that. Both work, but why would you do that? Because it's actually useful on every single character. So for example, if I go, this is my Mesmer right now. If I want to go to another character, let's say I go to my, I don't know. Let's go, who has a spear equipped? Let's go to my Willbender. And the Willbender can also wield a spear. And I want to equip another skin there. I can also do that here. So that's the thing. So legendary can be run with the skin, without the skin, whatever you like. It doesn't matter. Legendaries are just useful for every character. So it's the ultimate convenience. Yeah. Armor insane, weapons are meh, but overall I think they are overrated. Building a kit ain't that hard and can be goal on its own if you don't have a lot of time to grind legendary. I think that's fair. I think personally, legendary should not be the top priority if you only play one character. But if you play a lot of builds and a lot of characters, I think the legendary is really worthwhile to get. And yes, I have a lot of characters because I played the game a lot and I use a lot of them for storage. Yes, I have 70 characters and 2 more slots. Yes, I know. Just for my storage. It's not for some kind of crazy fashion and stuff like that, but I have a lot of storage. Yeah. Exactly. Hope that answers your question. So overall, Guild Wars 2 has a lot of looks if you look at my wardrobe. So you have this, so to say, transmog system where you see all your, for example, if you have the armor, light armor, there are a lot of skins just for your helm. Just for the light armor helm, there are a lot of skins. You can go for glasses, you can go for some glowing eyes, whatever. There's a lot of stuff, and if you scroll through all of that, there is a lot to collect. Yeah, you see that? And the same goes for the weapons. Even more here. There are a lot of skins to collect. Yeah, so a lot of stuff. Welcome, Echo Fox, welcome. The fractals were decent. We had someone actually leaving because they were actually doing so little DPS that they left mid-fight. And we actually didn't notice because the damage was not dropping at all. So that was the interesting part, but after that, it was actually quite nice. Yeah. Sweaty group. We only had one sweaty player. It wasn't me. Yeah, that's good. If you need that much storage characters, the game should maybe introduce a pay-to-win infinity storage. No, you don't need that. That's just me. You know, typically a player doesn't need a lot of storage. So if you play it like me and you just have a character that has a big enough inventory, you don't need a lot of storage. But if you are a player that wants to keep everything and wants to have everything perfectly organized without selling stuff, I just don't want to sell stuff. I just keep stuff forever because I want to have it when I need it. You know, I don't have anything what I need my gold right now, so I just save stuff. But if you're not like me, then why would you do that? You know, I have a character like this. Look at this. This is a character for this I use my character. Just one item that I have so many of that I have the whole character dedicated to this. It's my first one. I have 2 of those. So for me, it's like I just use stuff to save it and play different builds, for example, because Guild Wars 2 has build templates and equipment templates. So that means you can have different characters with different builds equipped. And if you want to swap them easily, you can just use another character for that. It can be really helpful. Stuff like that. Yeah. Would like to know your thoughts about Killproof. I think it's kind of bad as something to be in the game, but maybe I'm biased. Okay, so I think Killproof is a really let's talk about this. Killproof, personally, I think is a, how can I say? Killproof is a system that is in the game because ArenaNet didn't include anything baseline from the game to make it possible to see if a player is actually decent at the boss. So I think that's the problem that actually caused it. So if the game had some kind of achievement, some kind of thing that actually tracks if a person did a kind of mechanic. So for example, if someone killed Kadim, the Peerless, so Kadim 2, while being on the pylon and not dying, then they should get an achievement or something, and that should maybe also track how many times they killed it. And then people would say, I want a kiter that has this achievement. And if you could easily check that, then people would accept everyone even if they didn't kill the boss 100 times, you know? But the problem is that that doesn't exist. So that means the player want to play with someone that is someone similar skilled with as they are, you know? But they didn't give us that, so we have to have the kill proof. If you look at, for example, my bone skinner vials, I don't use them. I just have them. I have over 5k at this point of them, you know? So in my opinion, kill proof are a necessary evil to actually find experienced players, but it doesn't even help all the time, because sometimes you find someone that has 1000 LI, apparently all of them doing escort or something because they were really bad at the boss, for example, and that didn't help. But it's a way to actually get players that are similar skilled, at least filter out some players that are not skilled. So I think it's not good, but I can understand that people want players with them that actually have killed the boss a decent amount of time. So yeah, see you, Tsugi. So I'm not completely happy with either solution. I'm just saying, personally, for me, it's not ideal. Yeah, I can see why you would be against it, definitely. But I personally would also say I can also understand why people would use it, if that makes sense. Yeah, community solutions like KP will always be a shittier and more exclusionary version of what the devs could provide. Valguild was didn't, so here we are. Exactly. That's just what I think is, if ArenaNet would have implemented that in the base game, then we would have a better version without the toxic KP system with the kp.me website and that kind of stuff, so that it's really hard for new players, especially to get into fractal CMs, because people have crazy expectations and even the players are not that good. You know, I puck every time here on stream fractals almost, and there are always players that are really bad, even though we are in a fractal like 20, 30k sometimes KP groups. So it doesn't really help, but it helps more than not having any KP, because then you would get players that never did it before and are just lying about it. So yeah, it's not a good thing, definitely. I would definitely agree. I actually did Rival Mech in 99 CM, and it's actually really good. I think it's really, really good. I think you underestimate how good that one is. Yeah. So I would say it's one of the best builds to play there if you don't have a really sweaty group, because it has CC. It can easily deal damage from range, and it's also, so to say, not punishing. If, for example, if you get feared by the thing for whatever reason, because like I am sometimes, because I'm reading the chat, you can use a stun break. It's actually really, really good. Yeah, it's really easy. That's definitely true. That's the point. Good point. I think it's actually better than Unload Deadeye, because it has more utility and more DPS. So I think it's better. You know, it's not that much harder to play, and it's still very, very good. It's the dev's fault? Yeah, to some extent, I would say so. You know, there is no perfect solution in my opinion. That much is true. But I think the solution that we have right now is a very bad one. It's just we don't have a better one because the game doesn't provide it. That's the problem there. But you know, what can you do as a player? You can't do anything. You know, that's the problem. You can't do anything to change that, and so we have to accept the situation. And if you don't like KP, yeah, maybe then you don't play with KP groups, but it might be a harder time actually to find decent groups then. That's just how it goes, I guess. Thanks for the follow, Tsuki, Uleto, and Galinde, by the way. Really appreciate it. But it's always the case, you know. The kill proofs are not something that I would say is... How can I say? I personally think you can't expect a game to function without any kind of experience system. So you want always to see if someone that is in your party is experienced on the same experience level as you are. If you can't see that, you will have problems actually having some kind of puck scene, because you want to have a similar skilled group than you. You don't want to be with a group that is completely garbage in terms of your skill level, because that might not be the thing that you actually want to do. You want to have fun. You want to be fast in the content, maybe, if you're experienced. But it's the same goes, for example, for a training group. If you go in the training group as someone that is extremely skilled, you might expect that the training will take longer. But if you are a person that is really new at the game and just randomly goes into 9-man group that is extremely skilled at the game and carries him through all raids, that might also not be the best experience because they might not understand anything what they are doing. So I think it's always like, I can understand why you want to be together with similar skilled players. That makes sense. It's normal for experienced players to not want to play with noobs. It's the same in every game. It's the best metric there is. Exactly. I think that's the necessary evil right now. That's just how it is. Yeah. Experience doesn't equal skill though. I have 4K kill proof in Fractals, but I'm playing like 2K. I wouldn't say that's true actually. I played with you and it was actually quite fine. I would say it's actually, don't forget that if you killed all the bosses and know how to do it, you will be better than 99% of the Fractal community, because some of them are just getting carried and a lot of them actually don't even have the boss mechanics in mind at all. So I personally think KP in Fractals especially doesn't really matter as long as the player actually knows what they are doing to some extent. So I would run with you almost every day. If we need a DPS player, then I would be happy to run with you because I know you actually know what you're doing, even though your DPS might not be crazy good. So yeah, just saying, I feel like KP can be misleading for sure. I had so many groups that had really bad KP or really good KP rather, and had bad players in them. It feels like KP is hit or miss, you know. But it excludes players that don't have done the Fractals at all. That's the main reason here. My point was that you can get carried through all your KPs and still fit in high experience groups, which makes the system meaningless. Exactly. Exactly. It's a really bad system because you can actually be completely garbage and still have high KP, for sure. But the thing is, they KP filter out a few amount of players that don't have any KP because they don't know how to deal with the boss, you know? And that's already helping, you know? It's a shit system, but it's helping more than not having KP at all. That's the thing. That's the only reason why it works. You're the best 10k DPS Scourge in the game. Yeah, sorry, I didn't want to offend you. I really didn't. I just wanted to mention that it's not all about the DPS. Every day of the week, I would take a lower DPS player that has knowledge and the will to improve in the game than having a crazy high DPS player that dies to every single mechanic or ignores them altogether. Yeah, so that didn't want to offend you at all. Please keep that in mind. I can attest to that. Echo is crazy Scourge one trick. Exactly. Sounds so dry hard if you say someone is at one trick in Guild Wars 2. I feel like KP is a pretty shitty system for new players, in raids at least. I did trainings to begin with, then most groups around like 50k AP or more. So I had to keep doing trainings on several times. Yeah, that's a bad thing. I agree. I think the KP requirements nowadays are way too high for most players. It's just, it doesn't feel like it's the right thing to do, for sure. It feels really unnecessary high, especially if you want to get into raids. It feels like it's unnecessary, because most people that killed the boss 3 times will probably have a decent knowledge already. You don't have to kill the boss 40 times. But you can easily find raid strike Fractal CM groups on Discord. I feel like for raids and strikes, maybe for Fractals CMs, I'm not sure. I never look at Discord groups, so maybe you're right there. I can't tell you. I'm just saying KP is the necessary evil right now that we have. It's just my take on the matter. Yeah. I played Scourge on Kadim 1 today, 4.4k DPS. Ooh, that's not that good, I have to be honest. But I mean, if you killed it, good enough. Especially if you stayed alive. And I wasn't even the worst. Ooh, that sounds like a painful group. I mean, maybe the healer was slower. No, I'm joking. External solutions are never a good substitute. I feel like the whole system, I think there is not a perfect system anyway. There is no perfect system when it comes to finding experienced players. Tell me one game that has a perfect experience system where you will be happy all the time and always have the best possible experience level fit together. I think it's impossible, in my opinion. Yeah, there's no choice for newer players. That's the problem. I think especially getting into Fractal CMs can be really tough because the requirements to getting into Fractals are really annoying to actually achieve as a new player, which is not something that I really enjoy telling a new player, because that's very downturning of the whole thing of getting into Fractals, that is. You didn't? Oh no. Do you have any tips on keeping up quickness on Untamed? I think the biggest problem on Untamed is that you really have to keep a track of your let loose. So whenever you go into Unleash and go back into your self-unleashed mode, should always keep track of that, and always, really always, every 10 seconds do that. Because then you will keep it on off cooldown, the trait, and you will permanently provide quickness. So the only tip that I can give you is look out for stuff that is, or maybe find some way to actually tell after 10 seconds, now it's time to do that. Because if you don't, it might be, yeah, you might not keep up the quickness. Yeah. But there is no, I personally at least don't know about a perfect way to actually achieve an easy way to tell you every 10 seconds to do it. We could also go for more DPS, more wound duration. I guess they don't want to GG. Yeah, but I think Untamed is really good. I think just stick to your rotation and you will actually get perma quickness. So if you learn the rotation from Snowcross, you will be fine as well. Just keep that in mind. It's always the case for all GW2's builds, that is. Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's also the time to end the stream for today. I hope you had fun. I had a lot of fun. We had some really nice discussions. I wish you a very nice evening. And to all my American friends, have a nice day. And I hope to see you tomorrow. And yeah, be sure to check out my YouTube channel if you haven't already. And thanks for all the follows. See you around. It was a nice day. See you.